The story kicks off on a busy night at the military base, where the fighters are hanging out around the campfires, gearing up for what's about to go down. Inside a tent, a soldier sits all alone in the dark, giving 100% of his attention to his weapon. He carefully cleans his sword's blade, seeing in that steel the ultimate proof of his loyalty. The weapon's reflection represents his promise to Lord Atlas, since his one and only life goal is to wield that exact blade. Our MC flexes an unbreakable resolve in his focused gaze. Right then, the silence is crashed by a deep voice calling him from outside the tent. A figure walks into the dark space looking like a total boss. It's Lord Atlas rocking his heavy armor, making Zeno instantly drop to one knee to show some massive respect. The boss drops the news that their forces will strike at first light and tells the kid to spearhead the front line to bust through the enemy defenses. The game plan is to capture the rival commander defeated to secure the cloud of the Arclight family. Totally submissive to his master, the soldier listens to the strict rule that messing up is absolutely off the table, no matter what. That he looks up, his eyes full of nothing but pure loyalty to his lord. In that moment, the kid gets a flashback to the snowy day the Lord took him in, back when he literally had nobody. Being just a starving little dude eating scraps off the ground, he found in Atlas a legit reason to keep breathing. That tough memory carved a deep debt in his soul, one he plans to pay back even if it costs him his own existence. The Lord's image is locked in his head as the one and only VIP controlling his destiny and his choices. Without a single second of hesitation, the youth closes his eyes and embraces the heavy lifting. Locking in a stiff posture, he takes the boss's order and gears up for the clash. Totally confident that the job is in the bag, Atlas turns around and dips from the tent without looking back. Meanwhile, the soldier summons a crazy intense aura of energy into his sword for the upcoming showdown. Hitting the battlefield, Zeno rushes in like a literal human tornado, dropping lightning fast and fatal strikes everywhere. His blade is so ridiculously fast it whips up windstorms, knocking down entire rows of the opposing squad. Enjoying a quick breather after the first wave, he stands tall surrounded by the taken down rivals. But then, the ground starts shaking, announcing the enemy cavalry rolling in with everything they've got right at him. He catches them out of the corner of his eye without even breaking a sweat. Stranded solo on the field, the MC gets ready to face the massive crowd of knights head on. The rival commander shows up on the front line with a twisted smirk, fully convinced he's got the W in the bag. Right then, the kid thinks about everything he gave up over the years just to build up the Arclight house's rep. Even though he's super banged up and totally drained from the earlier fights, backing down a single inch just isn't his vibe. His relentless drive keeps him in the fight, acting like a weapon forged from the sacrifice of his own spirit. Channeling whatever juice he has left into one single spot on his blade, he braces for impact. The kid then unleashes his ultimate signature move, built on pure speed and insane wrecking power. Pulling off a flawless, zero-mistake move, the strike slices the wind and slams the cavalry hard, paving a clear path through the war zone. The sheer force of the hit is so overwhelming it wipes out a bunch of adversaries all at once. Watching from the sidelines, Atlas's squad talks trash about the kid's brutal fighting style, making sure to point out he's not really one of the family. Pushing his body way past its limits, the fighter struggles big time due to a massive energy burnout. He drops to his knees from pure exhaustion, while the guys from his own crew refuse to lend a hand and even insult him for being from the bottom of the barrel. With his vision getting blurry, the hero tries his best to stay sharp on the battlefield. Feeling like absolute garbage, he spots a fresh squad rolling his way. To make things worse, a brand new wave of enemy knights pops up on the horizon. The kid instantly clicks that the situation just went from bad to critical. Gripping his sword's hilt tight, he figures his physical stamina can only handle using that ultimate move exactly one more time. The burnout is super obvious as he weighs his options against the basically impossible roadblock ahead. From a high-up spot, Lord Atlas watches his lackey struggle with zero emotion. Despite having zero backup and the danger closing in, Zeno accepts his fate and readies himself to sacrifice whatever time he has left. Scrapping together his final drops of energy, the fighter charges in, doubling down on his vows of loyalty. He single-handedly takes on the entire enemy army, fully convinced that going down swinging is a fair price for his devotion. The boss tracks every single move his underling makes with a cold, calculating stare. Meanwhile, the hero drops a massive area of effect strike, wiping the floor with the opponents as a tribute to his master. Noting the energy drain, Atlas mutters with a smirk, feeling pretty validated that his gut feeling about the kid was spot on. The general notices a weird, golden glow starting to radiate from the warrior's body. Wasting no time, the master gives his masked goons the green light to move in before his weapon slips out of his control. The elimination order drops and the lackeys jump into a sneaky blindside attack. Out of nowhere, shady spells blast the oblivious kid, locking his body down in a magical trap. Totally shook at realizing it's a binding trap, he demands to know why they're pulling this sudden backstab. The dark energy starts blinding the warrior, making it impossible for him to even fight back. Taking full advantage, one of the hooded dudes lands a cheap shot on the fighter who can't even put his hands up. The lockdown magic triggers unbearable pain, punishing the kid with zero mercy as he struggles to break free. One of his so-called allied fighters raises a heavy weapon, totally clowning the guy's pathetic state. Fueled by pure hate, the dude slams the hero with an axe, calling him a straight-up freak. The hit connects flawlessly with the soldier's drained body, slamming him into the dirt super hard. Getting a kick out of the whole thing, the attacker lets him know he's just following orders and hints the kid should take it up with his own boss. Crazy banged up and stuck on the ground, the kid just can't wrap his head around how the idol he worshipped could orchestrate this setup. Metallic footsteps slowly make their way toward his body in the dirt. Trying super hard, the hero squints to see who just rolled up. The commander's majestic shadow looms over him, acting like a literal executioner checking out his catch. Staring him down with absolute zero care, the lord drops his lackey's name. The kid's eyes are practically screaming disbelief, fishing for any kind of excuse for this nonsensical betrayal. But his hopes totally crumble when the boss harshly announces that his usefulness officially expired right then and there. Trying his best to reject reality, the youth calls out the Lord's name, basically begging for a story that makes sense. Reaches out a shaky hand to the guy he always looked up to as a real father figure. Shutting down any emotional vibes, the aristocrat tells the orphan to stop acting delusional about fake feelings. The boss states with wild disrespect that he never for a second looked at that street kid as family. The twisted response just twists the knife deeper for the tossed-aside youth, wrecking his only reason for existing. Turning his back on his busted lackey, Atlas spills that, on that snowy day, he only picked the kid up because he saw something useful and easily controlled in those empty eyes. The Lord drops some major shade about how handy his fallen servant used to be. Looking down at the kid like he's nothing, the leader confirms he was basically meant to be the ultimate tool. To lock that in, all he had to do was hand the kid a life purpose and collect blind obedience as the paycheck. The boss viewed his entire existence as just a convenient weapon, ready to be tossed in the trash when done. Facing the facts, the aristocrat admits the soldier actually ended up being a little too good at his job. Bringing up the crazy spiritual power the kid flexed since he was little, the Lord finally drops his mask. He spills that he went to extreme lengths over the years. The whole game plan was to keep that massive power bottled up until this exact moment. However, the general noticed the containment wall had finally maxed out. Realizing that earlier flash of light was the ultimate proof of this wild power, the boss decided to handle it before the kid could go rogue. Covered in injuries, the hero tries to plead his case, swearing he'd never cross his master. Without an ounce of pity, a savage hit strikes the helpless boy, shutting him up real quick. Annoyed by the noise, Atlas announces he's gonna drop one final truth bomb about the kid's family name. The boss coldly lets him know that the name Xeno literally just translates to disposable sword. Hearing that, the surrounding squad bursts into laughter, totally roasting the tricked fighter, who finally gets what a massive joke his life was. While the general turns his back to walk away, the youth just lays there glued to the dirt. Scraping together the last crumbs of his stamina, the warrior fights to lift his head, even though the pain is next level. He whispers to himself about the path he walked and the weapon he dedicated 100% to that guy. The aristocrat catches the whisper, but doesn't show a single drop of pity for his former right-hand state. Crushed by the betrayal, the kid grips the earth with a trembling hand, trying to find some kind of anchor. Right then, the guards take a step back, totally spooked after catching a sudden flinch from the downed guy. Wrapped in a ridiculously strong energy, the hero grabs his shattered sword and pushes himself to drop one final attack. The kid's eyes shine with a mix of pure rage and heartbreak over everything that was stolen from him. But the spark in his eyes fades out super fast the second his tank hits absolute zero. His wrecked body finally gives out, and he drops dead still on the ground. Chilling out a bit, one of the guards starts cracking up, admitting the fighter actually gave him a solid jump scare. Raising his gear for the finishing blow, the guy mocks the whole vibe while the kid sheds tears over his miserable reality. The youth bitterly realizes his only reason for breathing was just to be a basic, brainwashed tool. The whole squad watches the scene with pure disgust, just waiting for him to clock out for good since his utility is zero. In his last few moments of clarity, the soldier wonders why he even played the tryhard for so long. Waking up in a super cozy, brightly lit spot, the hero wonders if he just got shipped to the afterlife, right as he spots the logo of the most overpowered magic dynasty on the planet. A sweet lady's voice notices he's awake and rubs his blanket with serious affection. A fancy-looking woman stares down at him with total love, calling him her precious little baby. Completely shook, the kid is mind blown when he hears his brand new nickname. Pure confusion takes over his brain as he tries to process this glitch in the Matrix scenery change. He lifts up his own tiny hands, standing totally speechless at this weird situation. Chilling in a high-end crib, the little guy starts internally freaking out, trying to figure out what happened to his character model. The irony from the universe is off the charts, seeing as the Elminster magic bloodline is the ultimate arch nemesis of the Arclight House, who are all about that sword life. The legends say the founder of this wizard family was so busted he could reshape a whole continent just by chanting a single spell. On top of that, this mythical dude had a spiritual aura so massive it rivaled the literal sun. Safe in the lady's arms, the youth finds it hilarious that he spent his past life grinding the sword, only to respawn straight into the rival squad. Curious about his new hardware, he focuses his mind and instantly, a buzzing energy starts sparking in his hands. A wave of security hits him when he recognizes the familiar vibe of that massive power. That cozy feeling spreads all over him, confirming his theories about his true core. He realizes, totally hyped, that he finally got back the insane magic power that got nerfed and locked away his whole past life. With dark smirk, the MC figures the universe didn't totally ghost him after all. Spawning in the perfect spot with a top-tier family and infinite power, he vows to use every cheat code he has to get ahead. The number one goal right now is making sure Lord Atlas pays a hefty price for that snake move he pulled. But to secure that payback, step 1 is unlocking total mastery over this new family's magic. To avoid blowing his cover and keep his comfy lifestyle, the kid instantly switches into super, innocent baby mode. Inside the castle's bogey room, an entire squad of maids and chefs bends over backwards to keep Mum and Son happy in every way possible. The head chef rolls up looking super hyped, serving an exclusive drink made strictly for the tiny VIP. This fancy snack was whipped up using some ultra rare sap pulled straight from the massive world tree. Living his best life, the baby sips the juice through a straw while processing the ridiculous amount of perks he just unlocked. Next up, a maid brings in a glowing rattle, dropping the lore that the whole crew spent the night pumping magic energy into the thing. The staff treats the enchanted toy like it's some legendary artifact built just to keep the baby entertained. Watching all the staff act like massive tryhards, the kid responds to the top hype with pure boredom. But, remembering he's playing a role, he hides his face behind the blanket and gives a little giggle, acting shy about being spoiled. Thinking the whole thing is adorable, the mom tells the staff to chill out so they don't end up scaring the little guy. Hugging her hair super tight, she calls him Lucius, making his new username official in this world. Even with all this VIP protection, the hero stays calculating, keeping his guard up so he doesn't get played by the superficial stuff. After all, the scars from his past playthrough always remind him that a useless street kid doesn't get free love. He figures all this crazy affection is strictly tied to his insane natural talent for casting spells. Thanks to that brutal backstab he went through, the kid learned his lesson the hardest way possible and refuses to get baited into fake emotional attachments. While the maids hype up every single move he makes in bed, the youth swears he'll milk all these privileges just to pull off his revenge. An entire week passes inside the massive castle since his respawn moment. Over these short days chilling in the mansion, the little guy managed to process one absolute truth. The magic potential and the training setups of this family casually outclass anything he ever imagined in his past life. Even making a basic bottle of milk takes rituals that pack a massive dose of magic right into the drink. Aside from the premium diet, the whole vibe is perfectly optimized to buff the baby constantly through random daily stuff. Even the lullabies the maids sing are packed with complex spell codes, flawlessly mixed right into the tune. As soon as the maids kill the lights and dip, the boy is finally left alone in the pitch black of his room. Chilling in the crib, he lets out a sigh, admitting that keeping up the baby act 24/7 is actually pretty exhausting. Taking advantage of the quiet night, the MC figures it's the perfect time to drive his new stats. Focusing energy into his fingertips, he gets ready to pop a skill from his past, aiming to compress all his power into one single dot. Kind of like what he used to do with his blade back in the day, the kid tries hard to copy that exact same compression trick. He vows to bring every single drop of his current magic power under flawless control, just to see where his limits are. The boy goes all in on his energy, blasting a heavy aura all across the dark room. Out of nowhere, a massive pillar of mystic force shoots straight up, totally wrecking the peace and quiet of the night. The glowing blue beam is so ridiculously huge it shreds the mansion's roof like paper, lighting up the whole property. Down in the kitchen area, the staff pause their grind, terrified by the sudden earthquake shaking the walls. Freaking out over the noise in the castle, The kid's mom sprints down the hallways in her pajamas, with a maid right on her heels. The energy blast just hangs over the estate like a glowing star lighting up the night sky. Back in the crib, Lucius is blown away by how much his power leveled up in just 7 days, realizing that if he masters this, the results are going to be insane. The current game plan is to focus on getting total control over this newly unlocked skill to keep grinding his levels. Right then, the woman bursts into the bedroom, looking absolutely terrified. Yelling for her hair while trying to catch her breath, she talks about the massive boom that just rocked the block. Totally shocking both of them, the kid's room is completely dead silent. Watching the baby keep his eyes shut super peacefully, the lady and the maid start wondering if they just hallucinated the whole earthquake. Chilling out, the mom smiles wondering what her boy is dreaming about, completely clueless that he's totally faking it. The next morning, the Elminster matriarch is having a chill moment with the baby in her arms near the sunny window. The good vibes get cancelled when the loyal maid busts the door open, screaming for the boss lady in full panic mode. Completely stressed out, the worker struggles to drop some heavy news, but the noble lady tells her to just take a breather first. Confused by the random chaos, the lady politely asks what in the world is going on outside. The maid drops that a royal army squad just pulled up to the front gates, escorting a top-tier inspector sent by the imperial crown. Shook by the guest's rank, the leader tries to figure out why a big-shot inspector is at her door. She thinks it's super weird for the government to roll up to such a remote spot with zero heads up, especially while the head of the house is out of town. Hanging out in his mom's arms, the MC quickly pieces together that they tracked last night's magic blast, and things just got sketchy. A little later, the whole crew gathers in the mansion's massive main hall to welcome the king's guys. Keeping her classy vibe, the lady waits on her throne, holding the kid tight. The huge doors swing open, revealing hooded dudes leading the pack with some seriously aggressive energy. The aristocrat scans the guests while keeping up the proud stance of her overpowered magic bloodline. The newcomers stomp into the room, bringing a super awkward and heavy vibe to the place. The mom and kid watch the guys roll up without showing a single ounce of weakness. Stopping right in front of the royals, the head of the squad calls out the property owner with zero manners. The Empire's official says they can skip the pleasantries, announcing he's packing an urgent royal warrant. He breaks down that last night, the Crown's magic radar picked up some insane activity in the area. An unmatched power surge went off right on the family's turf, basically a glitch that only drops once every 1,000 years. Pointing a firm finger, the hooded guy guarantees that the source of this monster energy is hiding somewhere in the mansion. The straight-up accusation makes the room super tense, catching all the maids and guards off guard. The staff starts as whispering to each other, totally clueless about where this legendary aura could be coming from. Ignoring everyone's shocked faces, the Imperial guy keeps going, saying they're going to run a scan to see if this glitch is a threat to the nation. Dropping a low-key threat, he states that following the strict letter of the law, they will wipe the property completely clean if they have to. Hearing that scary talk, the staff starts freaking out, terrified they're about to meet a bad end. The guy wraps up his warning by swearing that getting this done is their absolute duty to the crown. Acting as official inspectors, he flexes a super high-tech mystic radar in his hand. Gripping the gadget, the commander swears the exact starting point of all that crazy magic is definitely in this very room. The item starts spinning and giving off a soft glow, as it calibrates the readings of the space around them. Super fast, the gadget's light gets way brighter, hunting for the exact spot where the energy pillar spawned. Out of nowhere, the compass shoots a bright yellow laser, scanning the room to track down the spiritual footprint. The light locks straight onto the noble lady on the throne, grabbing the investigator's instant attention. Using his boss voice, he orders the lady to step up a bit so they can start the deep dive inspection. Keeping the chill vibe of her high rank, she agrees to the government's demand without throwing a fit. She hands the kid over to the loyal maid, telling her to keep the boy safe while she handles the official business. Asking for some space, the woman walks right into the middle of the hall alone to face the compass head on. The gadget's crazy bright light totally covers Lady Elminster during the magical background check. But noticing the machine hit a dead end, the hooded guy instantly realizes the lady of the house isn't the culprit. Super annoyed that his gear is glitching, the official scowls, wondering internally where the heck this mystic juice is leaking from. The artifact then starts flashing like crazy right in the royal envoy's hands. The pull is so massive the thing won't stop shaking, almost sliding right out of the investigator's grip. The magic radar violently shifts aim and blasts a massive beam straight at the maid holding the baby. The yellow glow completely blankets the corner of the room where the two of them are chilling. The shock of this plot twist makes the commander jump back spooked, striking a pose of pure disbelief. Sweating bullets and totally lost on how to react, he struggles to process the absolutely wild reading from the artifact. Making things worse, the supposedly unbreakable gear starts cracking and making loud popping noises because it's picking up way too much magic. Unable to tank the massive numbers, the compass literally explodes, popping a blinding flash right in the investigator's hand. While the mystic pieces fly everywhere, the baby just watches the chaos without dropping a single reaction from the maid's arms. Shaking with fear, the hooded guy stutters in a cold sweat, asking if that weird little creature could actually be the trigger. Everyone in the room's shocked eyes automatically snap to the kid tucked away in the corner. Paralyzed by fear, the inspector connects the dots that this innocent-looking baby is the root of the biggest mystic event of the century. He raises his voice, totally triggered, arguing that a setup like this breaks every single rule of how magic works in their country. Completely mind blown, the guy wonders how a top-tier artifact got wrecked just from the passive spiritual radiation the kid drops. From across the room, Lucius looks at the investigator with the mature vibe of someone who owns the entire lobby. Accepting the insane risk of his job, the agent pulls back his hood to show his face and decides to link his brain straight to the boys. With his palms out, the wizard draws a magic circle on the floor to try and peek at the true core of that life form. The second the psychic link clicks, a brutal spiritual shockwave blasts the guy backward, almost knocking him out. The magic bounces back just as hard, leaving the inspector terrified and struggling to wrap his head around the massive scale he just tapped into. The psychic deep dive reveals the kid's true, savage nature glowing in the darkest corners of his subconscious. The royal agent suffers big time as his brain gets flooded, claiming the level is so broken he can't even reach the kid's spiritual center. Swallowed by this endless void, the Empire's magic guy freaks out, realizing that looking at the kid is basically like staring straight into the sun. Totally panicking, the inspector stares at the boy's core sweating bullets after clocking it terrifying, dark power burning with zero limits. Picking up on the heavy vibe, one of the goons immediately asks the commander what he just saw. The matriarch and the maid wait for the answer in a super high anxiety atmosphere. The boss tries hard to keep his cool while weighing his massive duty to the imperial crown. He then gets a flashback to an ancient prophecy that's only been logged once since the nation was founded. This sketchy document hypes up the arrival of the biggest disaster the Empire has ever faced. Legend says that whoever packs a terrifying spell inside a holy core will end up drowning the whole region in darkness. Looking at the baby in the maid's arms, the guy notices that what he just saw is a 100% match for the prophecy. At that moment, the maid freezes up holding the kid tight, while the lady turns into a literal statue. Flexing his royal authority, the wizard announces that the unholy energy inside the kid is the legit trigger for total ruin. He takes a step forward, swearing he's going to handle the problem right now before things go off the rails. The two women are scared to death in the shadows at that straight-up threat. But little Lucius drops a serious, intimidating look, totally aware of the stakes. The guards circle the maid, super ready to land a hit on the kid at a moment's notice. One of the guys already pulls his blade from his cloak, ready to execute the ruthless order. Suddenly, the aristocrat's slim hands clap together in a polite plea for them to hit pause. The head inspector blocks the attack when he notices an intense pink light flooding the room. Wrapped in an insane amount of magic, Celestia strictly declares she won't let them lay a single finger on her boy. Uncomfortable with her boldness, the official asks if the noble lady seriously plans to beef with the state's laws. While walking toward the soldiers, she states that a single tear from her kid matters way more than any law in the nation. The lady keeps her boss stance, hyping up that this is what being a real mom is actually about. Impressed, the baby watches the lady completely tanking all the aggro for him. The wizard asks in a dark tone if she's really ready to pay the price for this rebellion. As an answer, a tornado of magic energy explodes between them, throwing a crazy gust of wind inside the castle. Neither of them takes a step back, just staring each other down with serious killer intent. Shocking everyone, the inspector cancels the magic in his hands, throwing the towel on the 1v1. The guards look at their boss totally lost on why he just flipped his attitude out of nowhere. Weapons ready, one of the underlings asks, super mad, if the boss is really going to let the family slide. The leader whispers back about what the Imperial rulebook actually says about stuff like this. Tapping the soldier's arm, he wonders out loud if a disaster seed raised with that much love would actually bloom into a bad ending. Keeps her magic wings flared out, body blocking the space between the king's guys and her son. The inspector turns around calmly, dropping that he decided to stick around and see how this plays out for himself. He and little Lucius lock eyes, looking exactly like two guys who completely understand the stakes. Speaking straight to the lady of the house, the guy gives props to her crazy bravery. The boss realizes the aristocrat has the guts to cancel the entire country just to keep that kid safe. Because of that, the commander offers to split this massive burden with the family. Celestia listens to the pitch closely, waiting for the catch. He warns that, if the kid ever goes rogue in the future, they'll both take the fall for it together. The squad starts backing out toward the door, while the commander asks if they have a deal. Pushing the giant hall doors open, the wizard leaves a final warning for her to never forget their little pact. Peace finally returns to the room the second the doors slam shut behind the Imperial squad. Right then, the leader's tough act crumbles, swapping out for a massive wave of relief. She immediately sprints across the shiny mansion floor, totally relieved. The noble lady cries out for her boy with a shaky voice and throws herself at the maid. Burying her face in her hands, the lady bawls her eyes out thanking God everything ended without a fight. The kid is completely stunned, watching how real the woman who adopted him is acting. The lady drops to her knees, hugging the maid and the baby with all the energy in the universe. The tears keep flowing, proving this is legit love with zero hidden agendas. She holds the kid against her heart, completely tossing her strict noble posture out the window. Wrapped up in the cozy hug, the baby gets super deep in thought about this unconditional love he never got to taste before. Far away, the guard asks if the commander is absolutely sure about the report they're sending to the crown. Flexing total confidence, the boss orders them to report they found a rare prodigy who's gonna be a massive asset to the country later on. 12 years fly by since that super stressful day, cutting to a massive magic training room. Right in the middle of a bunch of magic rings, young Lucius grinds his skills by dodging endless attacks. The kid moves like a pro, weaving through the magic lasers. Unimpressed with the speed, he tells the machine to crank the difficulty up a notch. This sketchy routine pushes the hero's mental state to the max by stacking insane pressure. Edging closer to his limits every time is the only way he can keep leveling up his stats. Using his speed, the boy lands flawlessly on a moving steel pendulum. Tanking this crazy level of danger is the only strategy to polish his overpowered skills. The youth keeps his balance perfect right on top of the hanging base in the middle of the energy storm. Exhausted, he sits down on the cold floor to catch his breath after the hardcore grind. At that exact moment, Celestia and the redhead maid walk into the room calling for the kid. Super worried, the mom scolds her kid, asking why he insists on going so hard in such a reckless drill. The tiny aristocrat hops off the base and lands super smoothly on the rocky floor. Walking over to them, he tries to chill the vibe out, claiming he's 100% safe. The youth backs himself up, saying he's been running this same exact hardcore routine every day for 12 years straight. The leader crosses her arms, still stressing over the kid's safety. Out of nowhere, the little maid totally loses her cool, radiating an energy full of pure rage. The kid steps closer, keeping his usual chill demeanor. He tries to diffuse the heavy air, giving the lady some major reassurance. Absolutely snapping, the maid lectures him that dropping your guard is a fatal mistake, throwing in that she almost bit the dust a bunch of times back in her soldier days because of it. Catching the heated scolding, Lucius looks away slightly, silently reflecting on this past decade. The hero's face gets serious as he flashes back to his brutal past and the goal he's staring down. While the maid keeps ranting, the boy agrees in his head, totally aware he's dedicated every waking second of his life to this prep. Taking advantage of a pause, the redhead maid steps up and hands a letter to the young noble. He grabs the fancy message sealed with green wax, instantly clocking that it's government paper. Scanning the letter super carefully, the kid realizes in a split second what the note is about. A crazy focused look takes over his face, proving he's been waiting his entire life for this exact second. The letter invites him to the entrance exam for the Royal Academy, the hub that gathers all the top prodigies in the nation. The lore says the absolute best student at this school scores a heavenly buff that can break any mortal limit. The main detail is that Lord Atlas himself was the star student of his generation back in the day. That memory digs up all the anger from the fatal cheap shot the hero took from his old boss. Back then, the military leader already packed a ridiculous amount of power that made zero sense to a normal fighter. The image of the backstabber looking down at him with zero cares is permanently burned into the kid's brain. Fueled by his bottled-up rage, Lucius aggressively crushes the letter, knowing he needs that god-tier buff to square up with his rival on equal ground. Mixing the fury from his past run with his current focus, he vows to claim the #1 spot at that academy. Right after, the scene cuts to the massive architecture of the magic school, hugged by giant walls. Inside, a huge stadium features bleachers packed with a crowd waiting for the kickoff. In a VIP section, Lucius's mom and the maid watch everything up close to hype up their young prodigy. Down on the field, the competitors walk together toward the center of the arena. Up in the stands, the nobles wait super hyped to watch their kids flex their skills. The hero stays completely chill in the middle of the student mob, just scanning the area. Suddenly, a booming voice echoes through the stadium, demanding absolute silence from the crowd. From the main stage, the head of the school officially announces the start of this year's entrance exam. A magic beam lights up the center of the testing ground, giving the green light for the practical phase. A massive crystal reptile chained up rises from underground, totally spooking a bunch of the rookies. Lucius just listens to the warning that the test kicks off right after the monster drop. Keeping his poker face, he mentally breaks down the details of the trial he's about to face. The annual test is strictly about measuring the defense and lockdown skills of each fresh wizard. While the beast roars with rage in its magic cage, the heir of House Hector watches the show acting like total royalty. The mission boils down to protecting a bunch of mystic floating eggs hovering near the student. At the same time, the rookie has to tank the crystal monster's savage hits without letting the items crack. The proctors watch everything from a distance, ready to grade their reaction times under insane pressure. To crunch the numbers, a mystic golden scale spawns floating above them, acting as the ultimate ref for the test. The glowing weights on the gadget represent how good their crowd control skills are against threats. Pass or fail comes down to where those golden plates finally settle. After the super long tutorial wraps, the candidates are told to head over to the stadium's waiting room. While walking through the halls, the rumor mill starts running wild among the noble teens. One student points a finger right at Lucius, talking trash that he's the cursed kid from the Elminsters. Chilling all relaxed, Hector mutters that the kid is only breathing right now because the royal guards took pity on him over a decade ago. Ignoring the toxic haters, the MC just keeps walking, totally ghosting the provocations. Right after the first candidate gets called up, a redhead girl from the Magnet bloodline. She doesn't waste a single second and instantly drops an overpowered fire spell on the reptile, trying to vaporize it. A massive explosion lights up the arena, flexing the noble's raw offensive stats. The fire absolutely shreds the beast, leaving a massive crater in the testing zone. The golden gadget spits out a top-tier grade for attack, but absolute trash for defense, giving her a borderline passing score. Annoyed with her own slip, the girl clicks her tongue when she notices she basically shattered all the eggs in the crossfire. The next wave of students steps up, dealing with the crystal monster's dark and aggressive attacks. The gold scale keeps spawning every round, ruthlessly grading the rookies' hustle. A few more applicants scrape together enough points to barely pass the exam. They show off all kinds of magic strats, including wind blasts used to push the aggro away. A bunch of candidates just focus entirely on defense, popping shields around the eggs to keep them safe. Until it's Hector Gilbert's turn, and he walks up with a vibe of pure ego and arrogance. In the stands, the crowd gossips super hyped, calling the guy the biggest sword prodigy in the kingdom. From afar, Lucius finds it pretty interesting that he has zero memories of this family from his past life. Standing in front of the monster, the noble kid announces he's passing on the boring wizard strats. He flexes that his family's sword handles business way faster. Pulling a lightning-fast move, the fighter focuses his power and draws his weapon from the sheath in a flash. Radiating cold energy, he claims his style cuts the target without making a single sound. The youth drops a brutally fast strike, dicing the monster up before it can even twitch. The sheer force of the straight line hit is so clean it doesn't even mess with the air, leaving the eggs untouched. Sheathing his blade smooth as ice, he clears the exam without breaking a sweat. Maxes out both sides, logging a flawless, god-tier score. The beast drops defeated on the floor while the kid stands tall, completely owning the arena. The big screen drops crazy high numbers for Hector, putting him comfortably at the top of the leaderboards. The other rookies are just starstruck, admitting they couldn't even track the attack because it was so fast. The final candidate is up, and Lucius casually strolls to the center of the ring. The vibe in the bleachers flips immediately, with whispers full of disgust aimed right at the cursed kid. Watching from the top, Hector assumes there's zero chance whatever this brat does is gonna top his insane flex. The warrior flashes a sideways smirk, already crowning himself the undisputed MVP of the event. The second the hero locks into his spot, the crystal beast charges up a massive area of effect nuke. Up in the VIP box, the lady and the maid get super stressed watching how huge the threat is getting. Even the redhead from House Magnate watches nervously, peeking from the hallways. A crushing beam of force gets fired at max power, swallowing the exact spot where the boy is standing. Catching the overkill, the headmaster questions how any rookie could ever block such a massive blast. The proctor argues back that, normally you just kite back and throw up a giant shield to protect the loot. Right in the middle of the magic nuke, the floating eggs stay perfectly still right next to the kid. Defying all the math, Lucius tanks the giant attack with a look of pure boredom on his face. Confused why the target didn't drop, the reptile roars in anger, cranking the attack magic even higher. Watching from the best seats, the proctors are completely mind blown by what's going down in the arena. In the dead center of that lethal storm, Lucius moves with crazy glitch-like agility, dodging every single strike with zero effort. Pulling off an acrobatic jump, the kid evades the force beams like he's just taking a walk in the park. The headmaster watches from above and whispers that this is literally science fiction. Next to him, his partner realizes in shock that the kid isn't even chanting spells, just managing raw spiritual energy with flawless precision. The accuracy of the hero's moves is so wild it looks like he's dodging every single raindrop in a hurricane. Faced with this, the prodigy boy just keeps a look of pure disgust, proving this whole exam is nothing but child's play. He raises just his index finger super calmly, gathering a tiny glowing dot right at the tip. On the flip side, the raging reptile charges up a massive energy ball to drop its final ultimate attack. But Lucius walks straight toward the danger with an open hand, not showing a single drop of fear. Chill but bossy voice, the kid tells the creature to cut it out, freezing the enemy's magic mid-air. Taking the opening, he casually flicks his hand to finish locking the beast down. The weight of mystic power crushes the monster flat against the rocky floor, canceling the threat instantly. Absolute dead silence takes over the entire Colosseum, while the crystal beast just lays there on the ground, completely crowd-controlled. Right then, the magic scale drops from the ceiling with a massive crash to grade his run. Up in the stands, the noble crowd is totally shook, struggling to process the crazy flex they just watched. The plates of the gadget slam down ridiculously hard, flashing numbers that break the machine's regular limits. Totally overloaded, the gold parts start leaking light, confirming a run that completely broke the meta. Dumbfounded, the audience talks among themselves, agreeing that a score like that breaks all the rules of logic. Hector watches everything from far away, raging hard over seeing his rank 1 spot get snatched in such an embarrassing way. Down in the middle of the arena, the tiny lord stands still, turning his back on the chaos he just caused. The stat overload is so massive the gadget starts cracking, literally unable to handle all that stacked power. The mystic screen flashes a glowing initial above everything else, locking in an untouchable, god-tier rank in defense and control. After that massive skill showcase, Lucius is officially crowned as the #1 freshman of his class. The crowd loses it, hyping up the new champ's scary run with deafening applause. Up in the VIP boxes, the maid screams her head off hyping up her little master, while the mom cries a river of very proud tears. Far away, some royal guards track the busted score through the school's magic monitors. Full of hate, the rookie fighter grinds his teeth as he realizes his status as a rare prodigy just got shredded with zero mercy. The hero keeps an ice-cold, focused look, knowing this W is just step 1 on the ladder to his real endgame. After that, the drafted students group up in the massive hall to kick off the awards event. The rookies line up in the open space, locking all their focus on the VIPs up on stage. Stepping up to the mic, the head of the school strikes a super official pose to hand out the MVP prize. With a wave of his hand, the boss sends the first place badge flying through the air, glowing with a heavy green light. Kneeling on the floor out of respect, Lucius catches the magic buff that floods his entire body. The youth closes his eyes to soak up this mythical power, feeling the magic surging through his veins like crazy. With the prize handed out, the boss wraps the ceremony by officially calling time on the tryouts. The morning light hits the giant castle building, kicking off the start of a wild new school life. That being said, the freshmen gather by the door to check out the dorm room spreadsheets. Right then, the raid head maid is bawling her eyes out over the kid leaving so soon. Being totally dramatic, she complains non-stop about how much it sucks that she won't get to see her master level up every day. The maid finally wipes her tears and drops her last bits of advice, saying the whole squad is gonna be cheering for him from home. Meanwhile, the lady steps up gently and rubs her kid's cheek, bummed out that it's finally time to say peace out. Looking at him with insane affection, she sweetly asks the boy to play it safe and says she'll be praying he stays in one piece. Hearing the tip, the kid keeps a straight face, pointing out there are a bunch of heavy hitters queuing up at the academy. But he quickly flashes a soft smile, agreeing to her request and showing love for the mom vibes. The MC finally turns around and heads out, leaving strict orders for the maid to take flawless care of his mom. On the walk, the kid happily thinks to himself that sniping the top spot was a massive brain play. A bit further away, some newbies are mind blown when they see the premium penthouse given the top-ranked student. But on the complete opposite side of campus, the dorms handed out to the low-score nobles look like gross, dark dungeons. In one of these tiny rooms, Hector's squad complains, super salty about being stuck living in that trash tier spot. Chilling in front of the board game, the warrior tells his goons to shut up and stop whining so much. He smashes a game piece on the table, arrogantly swearing they can steal the wizard's #1 spot whenever they want. The next morning, the vibe in the classroom starts off toxic with the rookies gossiping non-stop about the cursed kid. Lucius chills quietly in his seat, completely ignoring the rumors that he hacked the test using forbidden magic. One row over, Hector mocks the drama, sarcastically guessing that maybe the kid is just a massive nerd. Triggered by that idea, another classmate immediately snaps back, swearing the whole thing was just one giant rigged show. Out of nowhere, the sound of heavy boots echoes through the room, killing the debate instantly. Curious about the random silence, the MC looks up to see what's killing the vibe. A hooded guy with a super creepy energy slowly strolls in the room, leaking a really oppressive aura. The dude walks straight to the open window and hops on the ledge, staring down at the students like they're inmates. The teacher's dark cloak flaps in the heavy wind, while he stays perfectly balanced on the edge of the window. From the back, two students whisper super confused about the guy's dramatic, try-hard entrance. The kid Hector grips his sword handle furiously, saying that in a real street fight, he would have attacked without hesitation. Out of nowhere, the hooded guy teleports right next to the swordsman, demanding he kill that thirst for battle right now. Startled, the troublemaker's eyes go wide at the insane speed of the dash. Even so, the noble glares at the teacher with massive ego, saying he doesn't take orders from randoms. Leaning back lazily in his chair, he sarcastically asks if the instructor actually thinks he can spook him with such a basic trick. Immediately, the nearby kids laugh in his face, accusing the teacher of just trying to flex on day one. Not giving a single care about the disrespect, the master keeps half his face hidden in the shadows of the hood. A cold smirk pops up on the guy's mouth, proving he has zero patience for edgy teens. Thinking he owns the lobby, Hector steps up to the teacher and says he's only going to repeat himself one last time. In response, the teacher literally just snaps his fingers and tells the kid to sit down and be humble. A split second, a crushing wave of gravity slams the entire room, violently launching the desks into the air. Completely pinned to his chair, the sword kid struggles, trying to figure out what kind of broken force is crushing his body. The whole class goes full panic mode from the cheap shot energy attack, desperately guessing the instructor is an actual demon. Lucius watches, impressed that the master managed to humble all that ego with extreme ease. The fully paralyzed by the gravity spell, the swordsman is in agony trying to tank the ridiculous pressure. The teacher quickly drops the spell with another snap, ordering the problem child to burn that lesson into his brain. He takes a casual walk around the classroom, while dead silence takes over the room. Taking absolute control, the guy announces that the real daily grind of the school starts right now. Walking past the spooked kids, he lays down the law that noble blood and last names mean absolutely nothing in here. The magnate girl and the rest of the rookies listen to the rules completely shook, feeling the heavy pressure from the boss. Standing in front of the class, the teacher highlights that all their fancy noble badges are basically zero here. Right after, he pulls back his hood, showing his face and letting out a tired sigh. Staring down the whole room, the guy drops the truth that power is the only stat that actually matters in this place. His sharp eyes scan every corner, checking all the talent in the room. The hero holds eye contact with the instructor, keeping a totally blank poker face. Happy with the quiet class, the master figures it's time to actually kick off the lesson. Walking to the board, he officially drops his name Valerius for the freshman. The master states he's the one in charge of downloading the theory basics into their heads at the academy. Right then, Lucius recognizes the majestic outline of the teacher and gets a flashback. He realizes the instructor is literally the exact same royal inspector who pulled up to the castle a decade ago. The young noble connects the dots that it makes total sense for a guy working for the king to pack that much insane spiritual power. Pointing at the students, Valerius announces that the first topic of his class will be the server rules. He breaks down that the ultimate goal for any rookie here needs to be graduating in the number 1 slot. The instructor explains that a giant crystal amip square leaks the exact ranking of every enrolled student. The latter updates constantly based on mission and exam performance, exposing everyone's actual skill issue. Hector listens closely, already plotting how he's going to steal back the top spot on the leaderboards. Lilia Magnate gets stressed watching her rank bounce on the screen and wonders internally who managed to gap her. The master keeps talking, saying that hitting rank 1 means entering the elite top 16 to fight in an exclusive tournament that drops every 4 years. The number 1 winner of that brutal bracket gets the title of the absolute best student in the entire facility. Locked in on his revenge arc, the MC clenches his fist, knowing the champ gets an unpayable god tier buff. One student stands up heated, complaining that holding that rank for 4 straight years is pure insanity. The noble girl feels the same disgust as her classmate, sensing the mental burnout is gonna be massive. Right away, the kid's rank drops on the crystal, and the teacher warns them that crying about it also tanks their score. The master strongly suggests the rookies think real hard before opening their mouths from now on. He declares with zero emotion that the bottom 125 players on the ladder are going to pay a heavy tax. No matter the excuse, those bottom-tier students will get instantly kicked from the server. The young warrior realizes this is the ruthless strat to keep the skill level balanced between new players and bans. The teacher asks if the squad finally understands how hardcore and sweaty the academic world actually is. Charging up a spell in his hand, he officially declares the start of their very first field op. A massive teleport spell swallows the entire room in a blink, completely scaring the freshmen. Getting sucked into the portal, Hector grumbles in shock at the teacher's broken amount of power. The whole class drops into an outdoor zone that's super dark and boxed in by thick fog. The hero checks out the new map looking hyped, while the girl next to him is still struggling to figure out where she is. A colossal bridge built out of green blocks stretches over an endless pit right in front of the group. Chilling at the edge of the platform, Valerius repeats that this is the actual first lesson. He explains that the objective to pass the grade is insanely easy. Casually strolling on the floating bridge, the guy tells them to just walk to the other side within a 30-day time limit. Full of himself, one of the guys laughs, thinking crossing a basic structure is going to be the easiest dub ever. Two students rush ahead to get first blood on the test and sprint past the rest of the squad. Catching a weird vibe, the sword kid throws his hand up, stopping his goons from rushing in blind. The hyped-up rookie steps onto the bridge, already celebrating his supposedly free win. The exact millisecond the kid's shoe scrapes the green rock, the trap card on the structure activates instantly. A monstrous force locks the student down and drains his entire HP bar in a single hit. Panicking and completely out of juice, he stumbles toward the drop while his bro screams at him to hit the brakes. The master drops a cold warning to not make brainless plays, unless they want to end up getting wiped out just like that. Completely drained, the kid drops into the dark abyss, fading out into the shadows while the whole group watches. The noble girl freaks out, asking what the heck is even at the bottom of that sketchy pit. Scanning the map, Lucius quickly figures out that the bridge's rocks leech the spiritual energy out of anyone trying to cross. Actually enjoying the challenge, the gifted kid deduces that the puzzle is way simpler than it looks. Further down the bridge, the teacher repeats that magic is the core meta and tells them to grind the required stamina before the timer runs out. Shaking with terror after the wipeout, one student stutters, asking what the actual win rate for this class was in previous seasons. Valerius shakes his head slowly, crunching the stats from the older patches. Showing absolutely zero pity, he guesses that only about 20% of freshmen usually manage to pass the grade. The teacher drops a dramatic pause and says "my bad," claiming he used the wrong word. The guy turns to face the class, framed by heavy fog that just makes everything scarier. He tweaks his statement, announcing that the exact survival rate for this raid is a measly 20%. Pure confusion instantly takes over the rookies, since they have zero clue how they're supposed to multiply their power by 3 in such a short window. Collapsed on the ground near the edge, a few freshmen are completely stunned by the total risk. As the panic spreads, Lucius silently runs the math on the rock's drain rate compared to the distance to the finish line. The hero calculates that even a max-level wizard would run out of mana trying to sprint it in one go. He quickly catches on that this whole story about buffing your magic pool in a single month is just a psychological trick set up by the master. Radiating total confidence, the boy perfectly understands the hidden mechanic in this quest. On the far side of the pit, the teacher just keeps walking, leaving the students entirely up to their own RNG. The class's panic spikes as they remember the teammate who just plummeted into the dark seconds ago. Lacking the guts to face the boss room, a huge chunk of the group rage, quits and runs away from the floating platform. Several nobles cry on their way out, admitting they aren't down to risk it all for a basic practical lesson. A green-haired kid says in full panic that he's going to tell his family to cancel his school sub right now. From a distance, Valerius hears the stampede and judges the retreat as a smart play, since squishy players break instantly under pressure. Watching them dodge, Valerius warns with absolute ice that the cowards are going to feed in real fights anyway. Right after, he points to the creepy bridge and lets them know the squad that stayed has exactly 30 days to grind like crazy. At that moment, a massive magic timer spawns above them, reading 29 days, marking the official start of the raid. Lucius stares down the challenge, keeping his usual chill vibe in the face of danger. With 20 days left on the clock, the freshmen are already stressing out on the dirt to boost their physical stats. Young Lilia Magnate puts 100% into a brutal ground drill, tasting the burnout of the heavy grind. Taking off in a sprint right after, the redhead girl screams, trying to push past the physical limit. A teammate warns in terror that Hector's routine is way too sketchy. Huffing hard, Lilia gets paranoid that her magic region might not actually be enough to clear the exam. Under a massive rainstorm, the rookies struggle to walk while carrying giant boulders on their shoulders. One of the guys runs out of gas and rants about the totally ridiculous requirement. The hardcore rule forces the students to carry 10 times their own body weight, while the girl suffers under the giant rock. She grinds her teeth, entirely focused on not dropping her slot for anything in the world. Away from the chaos, the master flicks a tiny pebble toward the pit to test the hitbox. Crouched over the black dirt, the instructor studies the sketchy bridge with extreme care. Analyzing the structure, the teacher drops a totally calculated and tactical look. Valerius throws the item dead center onto the floating magic bridge. He confirms that if the contact time with the floor passes a specific frame window, the drain spell triggers. A fatal curse kicks in instantly, draining the entire HP bar in one tick until the target is wiped out. Keeping that in mind, the master proves his theories about the insane difficulty scaling of the exam. The Sorwile kid charges up a furious red aura all around himself. Hector dashes in, tearing through the air with a ridiculously overpowered side slash. The attack lands a critical hit on the target, causing catastrophic damage to the training zone. Watching from afar, the instructor keeps an eye on the noble kid's raw stat growth. With just 3 days left before the event ends, the guy swears he's figured out the one true meta to clear the run perfectly. Analyzing the quest, Lucius realizes the key to getting the W has nothing to do with having an insanely huge mana pool. Clapping his hands together, the kid clocks that the actual cheat code is the precise magic micromanagement he used in his past life. Back in those rough days, the hero had to master flawless magical control down to the cell level just to survive. The kid gets a flashback to that hyper-focused, repetitive drill that required as much accuracy as threading a needle. That massive suffering was what let the old soldier unlock his broken agility buff. That skill demanded a crazy toll on his body, making the fighter literally spit up blood from sheer exhaustion. Flat on the dirt, the soldier pushed himself close to the edge countless times just to min-max that power. Chilling peacefully under the leaves, Lucius realizes that copy, pasting that exact logic to his spells today is a piece of cake. Walking nearby, 2 rookies gossip, confused about how the kid hasn't done a single drill, literally just sitting there since the tutorial. Catching the scene, Valerius guesses the cursed brat probably paid someone to carry him in the entrance exam, and now the free ride is over. The master keeps eyes on the hero chilling solo at the edge of the pit. When the timer hits the 2-day mark, the squad is still draining themselves hauling wood in the forest. Hitting the final deadline, Hector spams a flurry of fast attacks, slicing up the wind like a maniac. The teacher watches the students drop their final drops of sweat with a totally blank face. Lilia and the other students take a breather, completely gassed, while the noble kid just AFKs in the background. Side-eyeing him, the noble redhead wonders, super annoyed, if the boy literally just gave up at spawn. Because on paper, this reincarnated baby is supposed to be sitting at the absolute top of the tier list. The exact second the timer hits absolute 0, the hero opens his eyes, flashing a heavy golden glow. Hyped about the buffs from his heavy focus, he gears up for the official raid. Time's up, and Valerius spawns floating like a boss right in front of the creepy structure, waiting for the lobby. Touching down on the rock, the teacher declares the 1-month time limit is officially over. The entire class walks up to the dark platform feeling some major anxiety. Staring down the rookies, the master demands to check the stats they grinded during survival training. Valerius asks harshly who has the guts to cross the pit first. Lucius keeps his cool, while the rookies next to him are sweating bullets, not wanting to step up first. The newbies start beefing, trying to push the aggro onto whoever was acting like the main character yesterday. Suddenly, confident footsteps cut through the squad's panic. Hector and Lilia step up at the exact same time, yelling they'll carry this run. The swordsman argues he was faster, triggering the girl who asks if his audio is budged. Cutting her off, the guy announces he'll take point, totally ignoring her rant about not having time for games. The hero just watches the kids beefing, finding the whole cutscene hilarious. Right then, another rookie runs up smiling, mocking the loser girl's face. The kid drops a super arrogant flex, claiming he grinded like crazy to reach this level. Sprinting for the bridge, he yells he's taking the lead, jump, scaring the other two. The girl gets absolutely furious at the random third party jumping in. The millisecond the newbie's boot taps the rock, a purple beam locks onto his legs. Screams in pure panic as his HP is mercilessly leached away. Seeing the massive fail, the swordsman calls his teammate an absolute bot. Totally out of juice, the kid plummets into the dark pit, locking in his bad ending. Spooked by the drop, another freshman points out that the guy's power level should have been high enough to clear it. Valerius shuts down the chatter, letting them know raw stats are useless against the broken curse. He casually drops the lore that the real solution to the puzzle isn't about stacking a massive mana pool. The true mechanic is burning magic inside your own body at an insane speed, basically out healing the bridge's DPS. The whole class freezes as they process how ridiculously hard that rule is. Noticing the group is basically stunned, the master laughs at them, asking what the holdup is since nobody else has dared to cross. One student replies in full panic, stating that if they lag even a little, they'll end up squashed at the bottom. Having zero patience for crying, the redhead girl screams at everyone to get out of her lane. Lilia dashes like a rocket, kicking up dirt all over the stone floor. She squints hard, burning every last pixel of her internal mana to push through. Opening her eyes with pure fiery rage, the girl flexes a solid resolve to absolutely roll this challenge. Lilia pushes onto the bridge, dropping a terrifying aura all around herself. She blasts a massive fire explosion to parry the structure's magic drain. Watching from far, Valerius silently admits the girl's mana bar is actually pretty cracked. But the spell's pressure kicks in with a nasty debuff, messing up the girl's movement right at the halfway mark. The girl stumbles, losing her balance, while the platform violently leeches her HP. The instructor figures that trying to brute force the trap is super sketchy, since the spell drains the user's magic non-stop. Unable to tank the continuous aggro, Lilia drops to her knees on the structure's green floor. The instructor keeps watching the freshman's hardcore struggle with total ice in his veins. Panning hard, the girl looks up fully possessed by rage and tells the bridge to stop disrespecting her stats. Driven by pure anger, she spikes her power to the max, swearing she won't take an L from a literal piece of floating dirt. Stomping super hard, the student sprints, pushing every single physical and mental stat to the limit. Is shook seeing the girl rely on pure willpower to force her mana regen and beat the drain effect. Thanks to that clutch play, the noble finally manages to cross the gap and zips past the teacher in a flash. The exact second she hits solid ground, she collapses, totally OMM and gasping for air. The master just sighs, looking at the absolute mess the girl is in after finishing the run. Lilia sits on the floor looking super smug and sarcastically asks what the instructor thought of her clear time. Getting straight to the point, Valerius announces she passed, hyping the girl up big time. Right after Hector kicks off his dash, but the teacher immediately flags his technique as totally trash. The instructor figures that spamming raw power like that is just gonna cause major cooldown issues in future boss fights. At that moment, he clocks the fighter's tactical footwork. The instructor notes that the kid spotted the tiny lag frame between touching the ground and the trap actually triggering. Exploiting that glitch, the noble grips his weapon, ready to dash in. The swordsman sprints like a bullet, betting that he just needs to move faster than the spell's spawn timer. Popping his broken speed buff, he blasts through the cursed zone with a devastating rush. Touching down safely on the far side, Hector brags that a basic tier curse could never even touch his sword. Riding the momentum, the kid throws a massive air blast, aiming the raw damage straight at the master. Valerius dodges the sneaky aggro just by casually tilting his head out of the way. Chilling in the shadows, the master admits he'd love to give props to the kid's big brain strat for breaking the trap's timer. Using an invisible move, the master crowd controls the rookie and warns him that trying to hit the dev is an instant ban, while the youth yells to get his score. The guy then rubber stamps the warrior's pass, who claps back with massive ego that it was a guaranteed win anyway. Catching the clip from the loser bracket, a rookie whispers in awe at the student's speed, hyping up the kid's insane talent. Suddenly, the sound of super slow footsteps grabs the whole lobby's attention. Lilia and the master snap their heads at the exact same time to see who's pulling up to the edge of the drop. The rookies get tense when they quickly confirm it's the rank 1 player leading the push. The blonde newbie checks Lucia's out looking sketchy, noticing something is definitely off about him. The group gossips that the tiny lord doesn't look like he packs a massive mana pool or the physical buffs Hector has. Valerius drops a little smirk, super hyped to see what kind of hacks the student is packing. The professor wonders in his head what the Elminster Hare's Galaxy brainplay is going to be, right as the kid finally steps onto the bridge. Lucius walks radiating an absolute chill vibe, leaving the rest shook that he's staring down a wipeout with zero fear. Further back, the warriors' goons start regretting their trash talk, wondering if the kid actually deserved the top spot after all. The hero keeps strolling flawlessly, maintaining a perfect walking cycle without dropping a single sweat particle. Triggered by how chill the guy is, Lilia complains his playstyle is boring, while Valerius watches closely. The teacher clicks that this is the perfect clear strat of someone who completely decoded the trap's trigger code. The second the boy clears the edge, the professor exhales, feeling dumb for hyping up some crazy expectations. Just then, the blonde student spawns on the other side completely out of breath, celebrating that his heavy grind finally paid off. Seeing the successful clear, Hector turns his head and yells to his lackeys that jumping across with zero magic is actually a viable strat. Instantly, the rest of the rookies stampede across the bridge, hyped up thinking the hard mode is over. The raid-head girl watches the rush and writes the whole group off as a bunch of bots for getting an ego boost just by copying the meta. Suddenly, the professor's face drops hard as he senses a massive wipeout about to happen. The Elminster kid hangs back, charging a tiny pixel of power on his finger. Valeria starts sweating bullets, finally realizing the actual scale of what the tiny lord just pulled off. The instructor realizes the MC was micro, managing his aura, dropping minimum magic inputs into the floor with every single step. That ridiculous control glitched the bridge without triggering the drain cycle, casually deleting an ancient curse without making a scene. Confused by the random screen shake, the students freeze mid-structure asking where the deafening sound is coming from. Lilia and Valerius's eyes go wide in horror as they realize the map is about to literally collapse. And with a massive blue explosion, the entire bridge turns to dust, proving the kid completely deleted the core code of the spell. The kids fall down with the rubble into the smoke, while the master tags the student as an absolute raid boss. Trying to process the server crash, the instructor admits he never thought the kid could actually scale this hard. Shaking with fear, the blonde newbie wrongly guesses the structure just gave out because it was old and praises the devs for surviving the run. Classmates nod, super relieved, celebrating surviving on 1 HP and locking in the grade pass. Catching his breath, the blonde student checks the pit, dropping some heavy pity for the players who missed the jump. He mourns the bad ending, remembering the first duo dropped after grinding so hard on the tutorial. Right then, the heavy fog at the bottom of the pit starts magically despawning. Valerius cracks his knuckles dramatically, ordering the survivors to stop panicking. A massive spell wraps around the fallen students, levitating the whole knocked-out lobby back up to the top. Completely mind-blown, the rookie yells, asking how it's even mathematically possible for all those guys to survive that massive fall damage. The professor turns to the group, dropping the knocked players on the floor and pulling all the aggro from the freshmen. Flashing a cocky grin, the teacher officially announces that 100% of the lobby passed the level. This call causes a massive uproar, with one girl stuttering and complaining that the bottom fraggers should get banned. The guy nods that mechanical skill was definitely tested during the run, but drops the bomb that it was never the main objective. He wraps up saying the real goal of this whole crazy month was checking the mental stats of every player. The instructor gives the squad props for not rage, quitting even when a literal game over was staring them down. The professor confirms that this mental toughness forged under massive threat is gonna be their best piece of gear. The noble girl and her friends process the tough lesson, realizing real leveling up goes way beyond base stats. The wind brushes the master's face, signaling the end of a legendary quest for the Academy's newbies. Starting his speech for the freshmen, Master Valerius claims the stage they just cleared carries some crazy high value. Lilia and Hector pay close attention to the instructor's drops, still coming down from the adrenaline of the boss fight they just finished. Showing a friendlier face, the professor officially praises all the rookies for pulling off a W in that insane trial. The professor admits he's actually pretty hyped about everyone's scores, leaving the class stunned by the random positive feedback. Super snobby, the redhead noble flexes her ego, confirming that this easy win was totally predictable. In that moment, the teens drop their guard as they process the end of this super sweaty grind. Lucius keeps his face completely locked in, refusing to get swept up in the lobby celebration vibes. Breaking the chill mood, Valerius steps up and announces they still have one little detail to patch up. The guy clarifies that surviving the trial and actually getting the high score are two completely different metas, and because of that he's going to drop the leaderboard from the top down. Shocking the whole server, the tag Lucius Elminster is called out, dropping him in the 45th slot of the Academy ladder. The hero hears his rank but keeps his poker face, knowing for a fact he totally sandbagged his real stats during the bridge run. Salty about the rankings, a student demands to know how it's fair that the kid got that tier just by casually walking across the map. Ignoring the crying, the class starts whispering, trying to guess who took the next slot, putting all their bets on the rookie Hector. Loving the drama, Lilia crosses her arms and arrogantly bets that her own gamertag is definitely dropping next. Pointing his finger at the crowd, the teacher kills the suspense by dropping the name of the guy holding the 46th spot. The instructor calls out Noah Raven, a super sketchy newbie, who spends the whole time camping inside his hoodie. Completely tilted by the leaderboard, Hector loses his cool, demanding to know what lobby this random third party even spawned from. The rest of the class is also shook, realizing the stealth player actually outscored the sword prodigy. Lilia starts freaking out, screaming mad about taking an L to someone basically invisible and racking her brain to remember if she ever even saw him in the lobby. While the chaos drags on, No curls up on the dirt hugging his knees, awkwardly confirming he was literally camping there the entire time. Watching the drama from a distance, Lucius notes the nobles' try-hard reactions and thinks the lobby chat is actually pretty funny. Taking control of the server, Professor Valerius calls GG on the scores and tells everyone to hold their L's without complaining. Seeing she landed in the 57th slot, the young redhead grinds her teeth, super salty about placing lower than the hoodie kid. On the flip side, the warrior curses as he drops to the 47th spot, harshly telling his goons to mute their mics. Meanwhile, the mystic scoreboard locks in Lucius and No at the top slots of that freshman lobby. The whole class starts whispering about the rank changes, with some hyping up their glow up, while others are straight up crying over their tanked scores. Right away, the teacher asks everyone to pay attention so he can break down how the daily school grind is going to work starting the very next day. He drops the news that the students are required to split up into squads of 4 for all future practical assignments. The instructor explains that this setup will be their main operating base, serving both for regular classes and the upcoming missions. On top of that, the teacher warns that the most overpowered teams will get the toughest missions, pointing out that grades are still strictly individual and the leaderboard can flip at any time. Dropping his voice into serious mode, Valerius warns that in the Academy's food chain, their own squad mates will actually be their biggest rivals. The freshmen tense up, realizing how savage this system is, forcing them to team up and compete against the exact same people all at once. Moving right along, the master lets them know that the official team rosters and their very first mission will be dropped the following morning. Just as he turns to bounce, the guy pauses for a second and announces he is making one exception to the main rule. He dictates that the 4 students with the highest scores in the class will form an exclusive elite squad. Totally losing it over the news, Lilia yells in protest, asking why she, of all people, has to team up with these weirdos. Pointing her finger at everyone, the girl demands that her newly assigned partners better not drag down her progress at the school. With the decision made, the master wraps up his speech, telling everyone to gear up properly for what is coming. Thinking over the rules, Lucius figures out that mission handouts are based on the combined power level of each created team. Watching the stressed-out mage and the furious swordsman, the boy genius deduces that putting the top rankers together is going to attract the most epic headaches imaginable. He gets that babysitting this tough crowd is going to be exhausting, but he also knows it is the absolute fast track to buffing his own power. Suddenly, the master asks for the attention of the 4 leaders again, dropping the bomb that he has one more super important message. Flexing a wily confident smile, the teacher says that the squad's first assignment has already been decided ahead of schedule. The instructor locks eyes with the elite squad as he sets up the details for the next day's practical exam. Setting the ultimate challenge, Valerius declares that the team's only goal will be to land Zand exactly 1 hit on him during the battle. The next morning, the group meets up in a forest clearing, and Lilia scoffs at the task, thinking it is going to be absurdly easy. Completely chill, the instructor steps into the middle of the combat zone and warns them he is about to show them a serious reality check. A blue spark starts popping off the teacher's body, and he tells the students not to misunderstand the vibe of what is about to happen. A massive surge of magical energy erupts around the instructor, creating a blue fire so intense it instantly terrifies the whole squad. Cloaked in this destructive aura, the master promises them that, even though they are the best in the class, not a single one of them would stand a chance in a one fight. The guy extends an arm, inviting the 4 of them to step up, claiming their only shot is to jump him all at once. The spiritual aura is so unbelievably heavy that the students take a step back, feeling the crushing weight of his intimidating flex. Leaves are violently whipped around by the wind as the master's aura creates a literal blue hurricane in the center of the arena. Refusing to be upstaged, Lilia summons her red flames, ordering the others to back off, because she is going to land the opening hit all by herself. Lucius also sparks up his glowing aura, honestly impressed by the raw display of power coming from his old acquaintance. The young noble remembers that this opponent is an elite imperial instructor, literally one of the Empire's most valuable walking weapons. Locked into the fight, the boy realizes that practically nobody in this school could go toe-to-toe with the teacher. Valerius wiggles his fingers in a mocking taunt, looking completely unbothered by the incoming rush of the elite rookies. The second the master gives the green light, the redhead and the swordsman dash forward at full speed, while the MC chooses to wait for the perfect opening. Smiling with pure hype, Lucius notes that this is the perfect chance to test the limits of his newly started life. Hector takes the lead, radiating red fury, dumping all his speed into the first strike against the teacher. The sword prodigy unleashes a lethal horizontal slash, cutting through the forest wind straight toward the target. But the guy's eyes bug out in shock when he realizes his blade has not moved a single millimeter forward. With just one finger and a chill smile, Valerius blocks the prodigy's weapon like it is absolutely nothing. In a flash, the teacher blasts a shockwave of power that yeets the swordsman backward with zero effort. Taking advantage of the distraction, Lilia jumps up, pooling a colossal amount of flames into her hands. The girl Hyper focuses on the target, determined to prove the heat of her fire against the master's defense. She touches down hard, causing a massive crash that kicks up dust and debris all over the zone. The noble quickly backs up after the explosion, getting ready for the counterattack she knows is coming. Right then, the introverted Noah steps up, casting a purple magic circle directly under the opponent's feet. The teacher just stands there in the middle of the spell, casually watching the hooded freshman's attempt to lock him down. The rookie throws his arms out, pushing his power to the max, trying to freeze the movements of the strongest guy on the field. Shattering the lockdown like it is glass, Valerius dashes out like purple lightning, stopping Lilia and Hector before they can even blink. The instructor tags both students with a rapid strike, exposing that their teamwork is still full of total noob mistakes. Landing his counter perfectly, the man easily shoves the nobles away, coldly telling them they are just in the way. Ticked off by their terrible synergy, Lilia screams to get the swordsman's attention. Hector looks back confused, hearing his partner yelling in the heat of the brawl. She roasts him, ordering him not to rush in so blindly, trashing the guy for being insanely reckless. Shaking with fear in the backline, Noah questions if his teammate is actively trying to get wiped out on purpose. Professor Valerius just watches the squad's immature bickering, keeping his rock-solid stance. With a dark look, the master makes it crystal clear that the team's messy dynamic was exactly what he expected. In that exact moment, Lucius takes the lead and starts gathering an absurd amount of blue energy in his palms. Spotting the opening the instructor casually left, the young lord shapes that power into a hyper-focused strike. The magic is so intense that the swordsman and the mage literally pause their argument just to stare at their teammate. Without missing a beat, the MC launches the booming attack right at the enemy. The master notices the insane speed and weight of the hit coming straight for his face. Because the spell's force is ripping through the air, Lilia has to shield herself from the intense wind it is throwing off. A violent explosion scatters dirt and debris across the entire stretch of the forest. Riding the recoil of his own attack, Lucius lands softly, keeping a safe and smart distance. The smoke clear, the boy sighs, deciding this whole situation is honestly kind of exhausting. Stepping out of the dust cloud without a scratch, Valerius casually mentions he would appreciate it if they did not demolish the school's landscaping. With a simple wave of his hand, the instructor clears out all the leftover magic hanging in the air. He strikes a super confident pose, proving that a basic direct hit is not going to be enough to take him down. The MC studies the opponent's durability with an eagle-eyed focus. Refusing to take an L, Lilia and Hector rush in for a combo attack, promising they will actually tag the master this time. Lucius chooses to hang back, just downloading the data from their movements in the fight. The teacher blocks the girl's fire and the guy's sword at the exact same time with ridiculous ease. Flexing his overwhelming strength, Valerius pushes back the double assault in the blink of an eye. Right then, the young hare catches a crucial piece of info slipping through the opponent's guard. The two students are launched backward, skidding across the dirt from the sheer force of the counter. Hyper-focused on the teacher, the MC realizes how that defensive skill is actually working. He figures out that the master is only creating the illusion of fighting the whole squad at once. In reality, Valerius is dealing with one student at a time at a speed that is basically impossible to track. The boy concludes that the only real window of opportunity pops up for a split second behind the instructor during these rapid exchanges. To exploit that glitch in the matrix, Lucius plans to sync his next spell perfectly with the rhythm of his teammates' attacks. Realizing the massive gap in their power levels, Lilia clenches her fists, super salty about how this is going. She gets back on her feet, frustrated, and demands the master stop looking down on the team's skills. The teacher notices the student's stubbornness, sounding just a little bit surprised. The redhead and the swordsman push forward for another aggro rush, mixing physical hits with magic power. Playing support from a distance, Noah fires off a bunch of magic shots to try and distract the enemy. Using the frontline chaos as cover, Lucius drops low and charges up his stealth attack in absolute silence. Just as expected, Valeri stops both students, tanking the double hits without breaking a sweat. However, the teacher's eyes widen when he senses a major threat, suddenly spawning in his blind spot. The rookie prodigy jumps perfectly into the predicted gap right behind the instructor. Hector and Lilia keep up the pressure from the front, forcing the master to hold his shield up. The guy warns them that frontal attacks are useless, but he frantically tries to react to the real danger coming from the back. Fearing the incoming blast, the introverted No hits the deck, throwing up a defensive bubble around himself. The two frontline attackers get knocked back again by the enemy's thick energy wave. Already locked in midair, the MC fires his spell directly into the teacher's unprotected back. The boy flashes a winner's smirk, thinking he finally pulled off the impossible and cracked the absolute defense. The magic lands perfectly on target, sparking a massive flash right in the middle of the training zone. The young lord watches the aftermath of his sneak attack without dropping his guard for a second. Hector and Lilia stare at the impact, completely mind-blown by their teammate's god-tier aim. A blue shockwave ripples across the ground, proving just how much raw power went into that hit. The MC stays frosty, waiting for the dust to settle to check the actual damage. When the smoke clears, the squad realizes Valerius threw up a flawless spherical shield at the absolute last fraction of a second. Completely shook, the swordsman complains that this has got to be some kind of sick joke. Sweating bullets, No whines that even a nuke of that size did not leave a single scratch on the teacher. Dropping the barrier, the instructor gives the kid props for actually forcing him to use serious magic. Lucius touches down, dropping into a cautious stance after his seemingly perfect strat failed. The instructor speaks with a disappointed tone, stating he probably hyped this team up way too much in his head. Cold look, Valerius warns that if they do not clear the objective in exactly 1 hour, the squad is getting disbanded. The duo in the front feels the weight of the threat, realizing things just got extremely real. The master tells them they need to act like an actual team and that, from this point on, he is done holding back. Wrapping it up, the guy suggests they cook up a strat that is way better than just fishing for obvious openings. The young lord chews on the master's advice while rewriting a whole new logic puzzle in his brain. Out of patience, Lilia totally loses it and asks if this dude is even human to tank that many hits in a row. She bites her lip, tasting massive frustration after watching her spells get cancelled out so casually. The girl marches right up to the boy prodigy, tossing all her pride in the trash. Looking straight at her partner, the mage demands to know if he has any strats to carry the team out of this mess. The noble swallows her ego and admits the kid was the only one who actually made the instructor use real defense. She tells him to spill the plan already so they can completely flip the script on this fight. Adjusting her gloves, the student finally shows off a vibe that is actually ready for some co-op gameplay. Lilia makes it crystal clear that she is not about to catch an expulsion screen right at the start of the tutorial. Having secured the girl's attention, Lucius decides to drop the intel he gathered from the last attack. The MC brings up the exact moment his sneak attack slammed into the enemy's body. He reports seeing a slight glitch in the spiritual aura during the impact, which instantly grabs the redhead's curiosity. Looking over at Valerius's unbreakable stance, the young lord explains the mechanics behind how that shield actually operates. The boy figures out that the instructor's defense does not have the same HP on all sides at the exact same time. To tank heavy hits, the master shifts all the shield's power to the exact point of impact, leaving the rest of his hitbox totally exposed. Lucius breaks it down. If they hit multiple spots on the defense simultaneously, the protective energy will spread out and get nerfed hard, and hearing this logic, Lilia agrees the strat is flawless for shattering the barrier. Blown away by how fast he cooked up the plan, Hector asks if the freshman seriously managed to spot the instructor's trick in that single split second of the last clash. The boy raises his hand, locking in the plan, while shifting into full focus to prep the next strike by comboing his power with his teammate's fire. Hyped by the reveal, the mage concludes that spamming more attacks at the teacher will yield better results, getting a nod from the young lord, who asks if she can actually handle the DPS check. Stepping up to the plate, the sword boy promises that if they need attack volume, he is their guy, but makes it super clear he is not intentionally playing support for the MC. On the flip side, the master waits for the next wave patiently, hiding in the shadows of his heavy cloak and the eerie quiet of the zone. Brimming with confidence, the instructor mutters a taunt, itching to see how the students plan to cheese him on this next run. Right then, the entire squad full sends it in a synchronized push, triggered by the mage calling out the attack order. The 4 elite students surround the master, unleashing a ridiculous bullet hell of attacks from every angle imaginable. Hanging out in the backline, Noah spams multiple chains of dark magic to crowd, control the opponent from the ground up. The guy tanks the storm of hits, recognizing their overload strategy, but coldly calculates that this DPSS output is still way too low to break him. Suddenly, the master's radar picks up a lethal movement spawning fast right in the middle of all that visual clutter. Dropping in from above, Hector unleashes a literal blender of blade strikes aimed dead at the enemy's head. The tip of the master's sword slams aggressively into the teacher's invisible barrier, sparking like crazy. Pushing the clash to the absolute limit to force the shield's aggro, the boy screams his partner's name, telling her to do her job. Answering the call, Lilia fires off a massive pillar of flames aimed at melting the instructor's front shield for good. The brutal fire blast smashes into the defense with everything she has got, triggering an insane heat wave that swallows the whole arena. Despite the massive upplay, Professor Valerius blocks both savage hits at the exact same time without giving up a single inch of ground. His magic barrier eats the crazy pressure, perfectly balancing the load between the two major impact zones. Noting the squad's rapid level up, the instructor praises the combo, calling it their most hyped attempt yet. But he instantly kills the student's vibe, stating in a dark tone that it still was not enough to crack his firewalls. Totally out of mana from burning through a ridiculous amount of spells, the two sigh, admitting their stamina bars are officially empty. Behind them, Noah stumbles and takes a step back, totally drained and unable to keep up the support buffs any longer. The mage gives in to the exhaustion and drops to her knees, while the guy stabs his sword into the dirt just to keep himself from face planting. Catching the exact frame the master was about to launch his counter, Lucius pops up behind his partners, slapping his hands onto their backs. With an expression of zero chill, the MC coldly announces that the team's boss fight is not over yet. He funnels a monstrous amount of blue aura, forcing the energy straight through the exhausted bodies of Hector and Lilia. The sudden surge of magic makes both of them scream, as Lucius's raw power jumpstarts the continuation of their previous combo. This insane fusion crafts a massive, one-of-kind spiritual sword, wrapped in violent fire and thick, dark energy. The finisher completely shreds the wind with crushing force, flying dead straight at the master who is still parked in the middle. Acting purely as conduits, the boy and the mage widen their eyes, totally shook by the sheer size of the power flowing through their veins. On the other side of the map, the professor's smug look finally gets wiped off his face when he registers the actual threat level of that unified triple strike. The massive crash of the blade against the barrier triggers a blue flashbang that wipes the training zone, tossing debris everywhere. The boom is so wild it blows the whole team backward, forcing the students to skid rough across the dirt. When the light finally fades, a tiny cut starts bleeding on the professor's neck, proving the absolute defense was officially cracked. The four freshmen slide together through the wrecked environment, managing to stop safely after surviving the crazy windstorm. The master casually wipes the cut on his face, looking at the blood on his hand and accepting that his unbreakable shield actually broke. Flashing a smile of genuine hype, Valerius officially announces that the squad has cleared the exam. Taking a massive breath at the news, Hector and Lilia smile with pure triumph, celebrating the end of that insanely sketchy assignment. Shaking like a leaf, the hooded freshman sighs in relief, thanking the heavens he survived that hardcore skill check. Right after, the boy burns through whatever 1 HP he had left in face, plants into the dirt, totally locked up from fatigue. Lilia and Hector also collapse onto their knees panting hard, feeling the physical tax of burning out their mana pools. Switching right back to his standard arrogant settings, the guy sighs, saying Lucius should be super thankful for the energy they lent him, even offering to take the kid on as his minion. The girl takes instant offense and stands up super triggered, telling her partner to check his attitude before she takes care of him herself. Ignoring his teammates' childish beef, the MC just turns his back, intensely hyper-fixating on his own hand. Deeply lost in the sauce of his own thoughts, the young prodigy wonders what that bizarre sensation he just experienced actually was. He mentally calculates that, at the frame of the final clash, the scattered spell output and the heavy physical weight of the blade somehow merged into a single hit box. This lightbulb moment makes him realize fast that his overpowered spiritual energy acted like the perfect adapter cable to link totally different power sources. The quiet flashback to his dark lore pops up, making the kid realize he manipulated that magic with the exact same muscle memory he used for his old sword. Blown away by this loot drop of info, he starts theory, crafting that mastering the perfect fusion of these two skill trees would boost him to a completely broken tier of power. A villainous smirk creeps onto the MC's face, just thinking about the chance to patch this tech and port it into a physical combat build. Meanwhile, his squad mates are still screaming and throwing light trash, talk at each other in the background of the field, with the wind constantly blowing. Calling the whole lobby together, the professor repeats that they passed and breaks down that the real point of that beatdown was to force them to realize they need each other. Taking a slow walk through the wrecked arena, the master notes that the students are still total noobs, but admits they at least get the core gameplay now. Turning to leave, Valerius drops one final tip, telling them not to forget the synergy they unlocked in that final ultimate attack. The instructor's words bounce around in the kid's head, and he whispers, remembering the unmatched high of that combo skill. He tries to mentally replay the flow of the energy, realizing it felt like the lethal precision of a sword and the splash damage of magic had become the exact same thing. Clenching his fist with absolute resolve, the boy promises that if he manages to solo unlock this tech, he will forge the ultimate tool to cancel that noble who backstabbed him. Fast forward to later that day, the scene swaps to the massive, premium bookshelves of the Royal Academy's main library. Hiding away from the noisy crowds, the student grinds for hours solo deep, diving into ancient tutorial books. Scanning a heavy lore book on magic fundamentals, Lucius reads how converted spiritual power is hard, coded to flow through the body's internal networking. The dusty manuscript explains that this base energy eventually splits and specs into a unique force, tuned either for spellcasting or raw physical swordplay. The knowledge dumped in these tomes states as hard facts that players spawn with only one of these paths hardwired into their biology. Keeping this data in mind, the MC realizes the earlier tech only worked because his spell, basically brute, forced its way into his teammate's power grid. He shuts the book, accepting the logic, and starts doubting if solo queuing this fusion build is actually physically impossible. But as he keeps reading, the text drops a crazy legend about glitched individuals born with both paths, claiming the founder of his own bloodline actually managed to merge both skill trees. A massive spark of hope lights up the young lord's eyes, realizing he just found the exact patch notes he was hunting for. A little later, the boy sneaks out to the training grounds at night and grabs a basic starter sword, wanting to beta test the theory in real time. Channeling his massive energy pool into extreme focus, he mimics the attack animations, dumping risky amounts of mana straight into the weapon's code. The crazy overload breaks the metal's durability, shattering the blade in the student's hands in a total fail. Even though the play flopped, Lucius clearly felt the ping of a physical path booting up, giving him flashbacks to the hardware limits of his past life. This confirms his theory that the melee build he painfully maxed out in the past is still sitting dormant somewhere in his current account's save file. Putting the final pieces together, he decides if he can manage to jailbreak that old path and sync it with his current, busted magic stats, the paywall will be shattered. Flashing a dark, hyper-focused look, the hare declares that this is the exploit to unlock the exact same mutant power as his historical ancestor. With this renewed objective locked in, the boy prodigy gets right back to his grinding schedule the next day, putting all his focus into cleanly dodging attacks on the court. The screech of a megaphone booting up echoes randomly across the field, pulling the aggro of every single student hanging around. A super hyper girl loudly announces herself as the master in charge of the class, dropping her username as Kathy. The master's totally unhinged energy slightly annoys the students' ears, as she drops the details for a special event targeted at squads ranked from the 30th to the 100th place out of the 500 enrolled at the school. Gripping the megaphone, the teacher declares this is going to be a high-tier PvP event between the classes. Some of the older veterans glare at the rookies from a distance, flexing a vibe of absolute superiority and trash talk. One of the senior students hypes his squad up to go all out so they can farm even better spots on the academy's leaderboard. Lilia clocks the enemy team's presence and points out to her friends that those guys are sitting at higher ranks than their squad. Hearing that, the upperclassmen start snickering, shamelessly mocking the elite rookie group. Super triggered by the disrespect, the mage shifts into serious mode and tells the rivals to stop looking at her like that. The girl recklessly charges straight at the enemy team to demand they explain themselves. Hector and No follow her chaotic push, sensing that a massive brawl is about to kick off. Blinded by rage, the girl heavily bumps into one of the older students blocking her path. She looks up full of pure spite and goes off, yelling at the guy in an incredibly toxic tone. Flexing a super threatening vibe, the older student sarcastically apologizes, claiming he couldn't even see the girl because of his own massive hitbox, while the introverted No cowers in fear of the giant's size. Pulling focus back to the class objective, Kathy warns that the game mode is super simple and reveals there is a hidden spiritual orb spawned right inside a colossal tree in the swamp. The master points toward a clearing in the woods and sets the win condition: the squad that grabs the relic first takes the crown. Lucius downloads the rules with major interest, muttering the item's name to himself. Hyped up, the woman explains that the loot is a purified energy stone, packing the specs to ridiculously uncap the power limits of whoever consumes it. The students are instantly shook, with one of them realizing out loud that eating that stone is basically like skipping years of grinding in a single click. A hyped smirk pops onto the boy prodigy's face at the sight of that top-tier loot. The young lord realizes this is the exact key item he needed to clear his main quest. He figures that absorbing a monstrous chunk of clean power might be the exact trigger needed to boot up the dormant melee path from his past life, while the teacher announces PvP is enabled and the timer runs out at dusk. A bunch of the older students start cracking their knuckles, flashing evil grins right at the freshman squad. Lilia Hector, and the hoodie kid get into stance, ready for the upcoming gang fight against the higher-level players. A flashbang goes off in the sky, officially dropping them into the match, making a ton of kids sprint like maniacs into the brush. The rookie squad speed runs through the leaves, totally dusting the competition. Taking point, Lucius locks his radar on the trail with unbreakable focus. Out of nowhere, a veteran player manages to track the prodigy's speedster pace through the woods. Multiple older students drop from the branches to gank the assault squad, sarcastically apologizing to the noobs just to troll them. Totally unfazed by the jump scare, Hector glares at the enemies, warning them not to try and leverage their higher ranks as some kind of VIP pass against his team. The young prodigy fast draws his sword and parries the opponent's aerial strike, sending the older student to the Shadow Realm. The clash of metal sparks up right in the middle of the thick foliage. Flexing his raw stats, the elite rookie bats the enemy away, yeeting him out of bounds with just one swing. The giant from earlier completely eats dirt, getting totally dunked on by the rookies, leaving the rest of his squad stun-locked. Walking right through the dust cloud, Lucius stays chill and advises his team not to get baited by the rank numbers. The MC brings up the hardcore survival raid they already cleared, stating their squad is packing way more DPS than these guys think. Hyped up by their leader's speech, the red-haired noble and the swordsman get their full confidence back for the brawl. But the massive dude on the ground groans, asking where they got the crazy idea they are actually strong, just as a mob of older students surrounds the team. A blonde rich kid flashes a toxic smirk and announces that the real boss fight starts right now. Fired up by the trash talk, the sword prodigy squares up to face the aggro head-on. Without missing a beat, the enemies spam sharp Wayne spells at the new kids, calling it a literal noob hunt. The rival squad leader pools a ridiculous amount of green magic in his hands, laughing as he promises to farm the rookies' points. With a savage throw, the guy drops this massive nuke spell right on top of the introverted No. Seeing that the ultimate is going to delete his defenseless teammate, the swordsman's eyes go wide with pure panic. Without a second thought, Hector dashes at a glitched speed, tearing up the dirt to try and tank the lethal hit. The veteran leader is actually low-key impressed by the new kid's reaction time. Hector pushes his jump to the max limit, focusing 100% on peeling for his teammate from the incoming wipe. But the veteran player spikes the sword boy into the dirt with brutal force, telling the kid not to get too ahead of himself. Capitalizing on the stun, two more enemies jump in with weapons drawn to keep the combo going against the squad. Seeing the lobby getting chaotic, Lilia drops into an aggro stance, ready to return fire with maximum damage. The girl summons a hardcore fire aura wrapping around her own arms. Full berserk, the girl launches a flaming punch rush straight at the attackers. The heavy impact of her fire attack smashes right into the veteran's blades, creating a blinding flash. Grinding through the clash, the mage clicks her tongue and tells the haters not to play with fire. One of the older guys grits his teeth, physically feeling the absurd scaling of the noob's flames. Stacking even more mana, Lilia pushes her fire strike to shatter the enemy's guard. She screams at them to stop nerfing her team's rep and unleashes a fire wave that engulfs the enemies all at once. Watching the enemies take a step back, the redhead pops a ridiculously confident smirk. At that exact frame, the blonde upperclassman strikes again, spamming sharp ice spikes from the ground at the freshmen, talking them as little brats. Totally stunned, locked by fear, Noah scrambles to shield himself from the incoming blizzard. Recovering his balance, Hector spins his blade like a pro and shatters the ice spikes, boldly declaring that they really are the elite tier. The hoodie kid casts a magic defense ring, remembering that their leader's buff applied to the whole squad. Spawning dark energy tentacles, Noah crushes the leftover ice magic, screaming that he is part of this elite squad too. The rookie shifts into an attack pose, letting his shadow magic leak all over his avatar. With a snap reaction, he fires off a massive tidal wave of dark energy straight at the opponents. The heavy hit tags the big guy directly, tossing the older student into the dirt with embarrassing ease. The rookie squad stays standing, looking down at the wiped rivals, while the mage takes a deep breath and realizes they actually clutched the team fight. Strolling casually through the war zone, Lucius asks in a totally flat voice if the lobby is cleared yet. The trio of prodigy students stays on guard, feeling super proud they managed to outplay the numbers disadvantage. Completely ignoring the older players, whining about their HP dropping in the dirt, the hare orders the squad to keep speed, running toward the main objective. Far away from the mess, Instructor Kathy is spectating the match through magic orbs, totally mind-blown watching the top 5 ranked squads get wiped in seconds. The teacher stares at the young lord's stream on the magic bubble, amazed that a team of rookies actually stomped the veterans. She mentally drops a like for the raw stats and focus that Lilia, Hector, and Noah flexed during the whole skirmish. But the woman locks her view purely on Lucius's AFK vibe, super curious about the kid's playstyle. The instructor is stunned, realizing the boy managed to buff his entire team's morale with a single voice line, even though he had the specs to solo wipe all the seniors if he felt like it. Tracking his every move through the magic monitor, the master flashes a curious smirk and wonders who in the world this kid actually is. At that same second, Lucius keeps his speed, run going through the woods, fully locked in and leading his party. Camping out in the heavy brush, a rival squad is hard, scoping the rookie's sprint. Zooming in with binoculars, the older students track every single step the elite players take toward the final goal. The rookies cross an open zone, keeping their sprint up so they do not throw their lead. Super hyped, the redhead celebrates that the waypoint is right ahead, but the young lord orders the squad to stay frosty because another team is on their tail. The crew finally pulls up to the massive glowing tree right in the middle of the swamp. Peeking through the leaves, the ultra-rare spiritual power relic pulses with a blinding glow. Sweating the loot, the Here and his teammates hit the boost for the final stretch. Flash reflects in the kid's eyes as he theory crafts how he is going to drain that energy. Suddenly, Lucius hits the brakes hard and commands the whole squad to freeze frame right there. Lilia gets tilted, asking why he is griefing their run, and warns that the enemies are going to steal the drop, but he just tells her to check her audio settings. The girl's eyes go wide as she picks up a glitched sound coming from the objective zone. The giant tree starts violently shaking while a red light pulses from the inside. Shook by the random world event, Hector and the redhead freeze in place waiting for the worst. The introverted No points forward, completely terrified of the mob that just spawned. A massive jaw completely stacked with razor-sharp fangs bursts out of the shadows, shattering the tree's glow. A colossal fish-type raid boss launches out of the river, scaring every single student in the lobby. The older students who were trying to camp the rookies start running for their lives from the giant mob. Right in the middle of the mass panic, Lucius just stands there, AFK with his hands in his pockets, looking bored out of his mind. In the spectator room, one of the masters watches the stream on the magic bubble and freaks out, asking what kind of glitch mob that is. The instructor snaps at Master Kathy, telling her to pull the plug on the exam and call in the mods immediately. The teacher just hums a little lobby tune, proving she has absolute zero chill for the crisis. Flashing a toxic smile, she denies the request and orders the event to keep running, leaving her coworker completely triggered. Keeping a straight face, the master argues that minor lag spikes like this happen all the time. She tells the instructor to stop acting like a total NPC while watching the chaos unfold in the forest. Super stressed, the professor sweats bullets, trying to figure out how to bypass his partner's trolling. With a heavy look, Kathy warns that anyone who got taken out here wouldn't even survive in a real PvP zone anyway. The master stammers, desperately trying to counter that hardcore logic. Immediately, the woman cracks a trollish grin, revealing she was literally just messing with him. Throwing a wink, the master guarantees that if the server actually starts crashing, they can just pass the aggro to her. The rest of the teachers let out a sigh of relief, realizing the girl actually has a backup save file. But Kathy looks back at the monitor, noting there definitely shouldn't be any magic beasts spawned in that chunk of the map. With a sus look, she mentally concludes that there is some serious hacker activity going on in that zone. Back at the swamp, the students group up, spamming an absolute bullet hell of attacks at the colossal beast. One of the swordsmen jumps up, executing a heavy plunge attack with everything he has got. The blades smash hard against the mob's armor, but just bounce right off without dealing a single point of damage. Catching the immune pop up, an older student yells that the creature's scales are getting passive buffs from the magic relic. Trying to play support, Noah spams multiple dark waves at the beast. Lilia follows up the push, dumping a massive ultimate of furious flames. The stacked Aoyi magic triggers a massive nuke, lighting up the entire forest map. The smoke starts rendering out slowly while the players wait to see if the boss HP dropped. To everyone's absolute horror, the mob is still casually floating in the clear water. A freshman completely loses it, realizing they did not manage to inflict even 1 point of chip damage on the beast. The mob gets back up looking like a nightmare, triggering blind panic among the students who have zero clue where to kite to. Smashing the water with pure rage, the creature kicks up a tsunami and rushes the kids like a freight train. Staring down that massive hitbox, the students scream at everyone to log out before they get swallowed whole. Running straight into the danger zone, Lucius double jumps high into the air toward the threat, with magic projectiles floating around him. A veteran is totally mind blown by the troll play and asks if the noob just completely uninstalled his brain. Floating solo in the sky, the MC goes face to face with the giant beast. Red-haired mage screams her teammate's username, straight up calling him a bot. The sea monster unhinges its terrifying jaw, ready to one-shot the enemy. Swallowed by the mob's shadow, the hare flashes a smirk like a guy who literally owns the server. In a split second, the beast swallows the kid whole and dives back into the water. Sprints toward the river in pure panic, completely shook by the game over she just witnessed. The mob sinks, leaving only foam particles rendering on the swamp water. Finding the wipe hilarious, a kid with glasses calls the boy a scrub and complains that he cannot stand noobs with zero-rate experience. All of a sudden, the beast's overpowered armor starts cracking, leaking insane beams of light through its body. The students point and stutter in absolute terror at the glitched nightmare. The mob is yeeted out of the lake in a flash of power that completely deletes the darkness. Trying to find cover, a guy yells that if that massive ragdoll drops from that height, the splash damage is going to wipe the whole map. The monster starts breaking down as the destructive energy maxes out in its head. A massive explosion totally deletes the creature in mid-air, lighting up the swamp like someone turned the brightness settings to max. Lilia and her party watch the aerial wipeout with their mics totally muted. The veteran player who was talking trash earlier drops his jaw at this literal cheat, code power level. As the flashbang wears off, Lucius's solo avatar slowly glides back down to the ground. Sweating bullets, the glasses kid wonders how a level 1 noob managed to solo wipe the beast from the inside out. Flexing the glowing stone, the MC drops a proud smirk and announces he finally got the drop he was grinding for. The spiritual power relic vibrates like crazy in the young hair's palm. The kid's boots touch the dirt perfectly right in front of the whole lobby. The elite rookie squad and the rest of the players just stare at their teammate in complete dead silence. The boy holds a dark, super arrogant look, flexing his brand new legendary loot. Breaking the quiet, a hologram of Professor Kathy pops up, officially announcing that the event is over. The system message echoes across the bright swamp while the freshmen try to process the absolute fever dream that just happened. Super hyped, the instructor orders everyone to pack their inventories and fast, travel straight back to the hub. Spectating the wrap, up from afar on the magic bubble, Master Kathy looks pretty sus about the total server wipe that just went down in the swamp. Deep in the woods, Lucius grips the legendary crystal tight while his squadmates group up around him. Right then, an older black-haired student groans in pure salt, declaring it is impossible to believe they got clipped by a squad of actual noobs. The mob of veteran players slowly pushes the freshman squad with a super toxic vibe. A pale guy mocks the whole raid, saying the event was way too casual and that he would rather queue up for high elo-ranked matches. His hooded partner next to him just drops a quiet little chuckle, backing up the trash talk. Not really caring about the hater's ego trip, Lilia sighs and tries to change the subject ASAP. One of the veteran players aims his finger straight at the young hair in the dark, demanding answers. The red-haired girl ignores the rivals inside eyes Lucius, questioning what his actual main account is behind that AFK personality. The boy prodigy keeps his eyes glued to the loot in his hands, totally hyper, focused on his main quest. He mumbles to himself, analyzing the magic power relic he just farmed. Inspecting the item's stats, the boy confirms there is no glitch, since the energy packed in the artifact is ridiculously dense. Super confident, he decides this has got to be enough to jumpstart his old hardware. Suddenly, a loud noise in the trees pauses the MC's theory, crafting, and makes the whole squad snap their heads around. An older dude rocking a ponytail steps out of the shadows, hyping up the god-tier stats the rookies just put on display. The veteran player admits he got so terrified by the mob that his controller basically disconnected, and he could not move a pixel. Keeping up a friendly vibe, the guy swears he was super impressed and that it was hard to believe they were just low-level accounts. The boy listens to the voice lines on mute while the opponent goes out of his way to glaze the squad leader's raw DPS. He extends the hype to the rest of the party, confirming the other three also flexed some insane stats. Throwing out some fake humility, the guy mentions that the older players might have low stats, but their game sense in the academy could totally boost the noobs. The redhead stares at the giant for a second, calculating the random co-op invite. After a sec, she acts super confident and ends up accepting the truce request. The girl reaches her hand out to the dude, ready to lock in the party invite between both sides. The guy mirrors the animation, playing the polite NPC perfectly just to bait the rookie. But acting like an absolute snake, he pulls his hand back and drops a brutal overhead strike on the totally unprepared student. Lilia's eyes widen in pure shock, her brain lagging to process the sneak attack with 0 frames to hit parry. Thanks to the heavy hit, the girl gets spiked into the dirt, kicking up a thick cloud of dust and debris. Hector and the hoodie kid are completely stunned, locked watching the smoke consume the combat zone. Super damaged, the noble girl coughs up blood, feeling the massive critical hit of the gank she just tanked. The young hair counters instantly, demanding to know what the heck the griefer thinks he is doing. Peeling for his injured teammate, Lucius glares at the enemy with ice in his voice and drops the warning that the tutorial is officially over. The veteran ignores the warning and whispers that the kid's stats are just purely busted. Dropping into a scout stance, the guy repeats the glaze, staring the boy prodigy right in the face. He announces that the rookie squad is the ultimate farming spot they could ever ask for. The sword boy takes a step back, sensing the toxic dark energy that just flooded the server. Flexing absolute disrespect, the guy talks down to the rookies with a super arrogant voice line. He drops a troll question, asking if the kids know about the Swampers lore in the school. Camping in the corner, the introverted Noah repeats the word, totally lost on the random trivia. The veteran breaks it down, explaining that the system auto bans the 125 worst students every year, but anyone sitting just above that cut off does not get kicked. With a super salty face, he swears the algorithm is rigged, since players like him will never unlock the achievement of hitting the top ranks. He adds that, on the flip side, they never got scores trash enough to get their accounts permanently deleted over time either. A nightmare aura, the guy explains that players soft, locked in this endless loop are tagged as swampers. Without dropping a sweat, the boy asks what these hard, stuck players even want on this map. The gang leader rages that they have been camping here for ages, stuck in the mid-elo brackets until they become boomers. Staring at the night sky, the enemy bitterly confesses they have even lost the rep to rock their own clan tags. Hector raises his blade and roasts the students, calling them nothing but washed, up old boomers who cannot handle reality. The team leader totally loses his mind, screaming that their inventories are empty and they have 0 XP paths left to grind. Going full psycho, the guy swears he is going to reclaim every piece of loot that got ninja'd from his life. He promises he won't let any admin in the universe ban him, spawning a massive, glowing magic hourglass right behind him. The rookie swordsman's eyes bug out at this glitched item, yelling to ask what the heck that thing is. The glow reveals that the inside of the relic is packed with skeletal remains, totally spooking the kid, who realizes how broken this situation is. No gets ridiculously terrified when he clocks the dark aggro locking onto them. Out of nowhere, a purple magic trap spawns dead center under the hooded rookie's feet. A bunch of dark magic arms grab out from the dirt, yanking the kid down without giving him a single frame to cast a shield. The bald giant from the enemy squad pops off with an evil laugh, spamming the trap controls from a safe distance. He raises his hands, putting the squeeze on the dark spell to perma, stun the squishiest member of the rookie team. Spotting the rat play, Hector whips around at lightning speed, trying to carry his teammate out of the CC. But the shadow arms drag the introverted kid straight into multiple dark dimension rifts in the ground. The spell deletes the victim's hitbox rapidly, blocking any chance of an escape tech right now. Consumed by maximum salt, the enemy boss redirects his own lethal DPS to keep the OE attack going. A massive wave of stolen mana starts rotting straight into the core of the creepy container. The two veterans start popping off hysterically, feeling the buffs hit their avatars, screaming that the stat boost feels insane. The giant threatens that he is going to keep draining the target's HP bar until there is literally 0 left. Trapped in the CC, No struggles like crazy, telling the enemies to stay out of his personal space. The dark magic chokes the rookie out brutally, leeching every single drop of his mana pool into the void. Without missing a beat, Hector dashes into the red zone to try and break the enemy's crowd control. The enemy mage throws up an arm to block the sword rookie's speedster rush. Hyper-focused entirely on the relic, the young noble realizes he has to destroy the server item to rescue his due. With a pro-gamer jump, the kid pushes forward, sword raised to slice the artifact clean in half. He drops a heavy angled slash, clipping the air dead on toward the glass object. But the kinetic energy is hard countered by an overpowered force field that totally blocks the item from taking damage. Is stunned, completely mind blown at how his direct hit got totally negated. Capitalizing on the kid's open guard, the bald dude drops a heavy punch right on his face with 0 mercy. The enemy grabs the kid by the collar and drops the lore that only the player who activated the item has permission to interact with it. Because of that mechanic, the sword kid's avatar gets suspended in mid-air, totally open to getting griefed by the attacker. Scanning the battlefield, Lucius downloads the info fast. The trap consumes absolutely any type of ranged magic attack. On top of that, the shadow spell drains the HP of any player who tries to land physical melee hits on the griefers. Processing this, the Lord Boy drops his gaze, scanning for a glitch in that supposedly perfect firewall. Instantly, the kid dashes at a hack speed straight at the enemy boss, who is holding his teammate hostage. The boy lands a pixel-perfect physical kick right in the arrogant veteran's face. Thanks to the raw knockback of the attack, the guy is sent flying, auto, releasing the sword rookie instantly. The opponent skids hard across the dirt, kicking up dust, while the kid hits the ground waiting for his stamina bar to refill. Keeping his usual ice, cold vibe, the boy prodigy notes that pure physical melee builds are actually super meta against this shield. On the opposite side of the map, the giant struggles to get back up from the dust cloud. Walking slowly, the MC stops exactly on top of the blade that the young swordsman dropped during the chaotic team fight. Lilia watches her teammates play, getting completely confused by the strat. Asks what his game plan is, reminding him that the kid's entire build is strictly magic damage. But the boy grips the hilt of the blade solid and totally ignores the noble's backseat gaming. He lifts the metal weapon, testing the item's weight with insane muscle memory. Flashing a highly confident smirk, the boy drops the lore that, in reality, his starter class was completely different. The two enemies stare at the rookie, completely shook by this random class switch. Ready to brawl, Lucius finishes his sentence, swearing on everything that he was actually leveled up as a real swordsman. A killer glint takes over the kid's eyes as he equips a familiar weapon, type after skipping it for patches. He micro-adjusts his character model perfectly, showing off an absolutely cracked skill level. The MC Hyper focuses on the opponent, ready to initiate the sprint animation. Spectating this weird flex, the older students get confused and start flaming the rookie's loadout choice. The squad leader has a good laugh, sarcastically asking if the mage wants to play pretend with physical PvP. Rushing in without hitting the brakes, the giant swears he's going to snap the noob's sword in half. But the young hare counters with a lethal combo of insanely fast frames, totally eating up the enemy's push. The older opponent tanks the heavy hit, getting knocked back while crying about the damage numbers. Sweating the bad matchup, the second opponent pulls his own blade to join the lobby. The boy prodigy flicks his icy crosshair right onto this new target. With a smooth animation, he tightens his grip on the hilt, perfectly calibrating the aim for the next strike. The opponent's eyes go wide, realizing way too late that the danger zone is already here. In less than a frame, Lucius Speed dashes across the zone and violently smashes the opponent's block. The heavy strike is so overpowered it shatters the veteran's guard, launching him into the sky box. The enemy drops way out of bounds, spawning dirt clouds when he crashes hard into the forest floor. This broken gameplay, Lilia is shook and whispers that this cannot possibly be actual gameplay footage. On the flip side, the MC just stands totally chill in the middle of the zone after disabling his target. With a flashy weapon spin, he resets the blade, proving he has absolute mastery over the item. Lying on the ground, the defeated opponent tries to calculate how the freshman pulled off a tech like that without burning a single drop of mana. The guy freaks out, questioning how a random low-level account unlocked that kind of combat rating. Capitalizing on the momentum, the young hare super jumps, targeting the boss who is camping the magic item. Terrified by the fast approach, the giant throws his hands up, begging the rookie to chill out. Tearing through the air, Lucius keeps a terrifying death stare, while the opponent tries to cut by telling himself it is just a kid with zero physical stats. Trying to hold back his panic, the veteran sucks in some air to lock back into the duel. He summons his stolen buffs, spawning a massive purple glow in the palms of his hands. The kid stays on his lethal dive trajectory, ready to absolutely dismantle the enemy. Fueled panic, the griefer fires a massive ultimate, telling the little brat to start shaking. A massive nuke of dark energy swallows the floor, making the opponent celebrate the GG. Slicing right through the spell effects, the boy slams the metal dead center into the big guy's chest hitbox. But the hit registers 0 damage on the veteran's armored body, and the guy laughs at the rookie's lack of raw strength. The opponent lets out an unhinged laugh, explaining that his premium armor buff comes directly from all that farmed spiritual power. Instantly, the dude charges like a moving payload, telling the rookie to brace for impact. The enemy boss throws a massive heavy punch, forcing Lucius to burn weapon durability to block the strike. The kinetic energy of the melee hit is massive, putting a crazy tax on the kid's low-level physical build. The collision between the fist and the sword triggers a shockwave that clears the ground textures. Scanning the error logs, the boy quickly realizes the run is not going according to the strat. Abusing his massive hitbox advantage, the veteran bullies the kid, forcing him to backpedal across the dirt. A brand new ultra-heavy strike forces the hare to completely turtle up in a defensive stance. Boy notes that his current physical autos do not have enough DPS to trigger any actual HP loss. The enemy starts spamming a flurry of destructive heavy attacks right into the freshman's guard. Lucius calculates that, on his previous save file, his character model could tank the aggro, but his current avatar is way too squishy without popping magic buffs. Milking the stat gap, the giant shatters the sword boy's temporary block. With a toxic scream, the enemy connects a flawless punch that yeets the hare across the map. Keeping the pressure up, the opponent pushes forward again, screaming that the rookie has already cost him way too much grief. The kid keeps floating in the knockback animation thanks to the insane physics of the last hit. Panicking, Lilia sprints over to support the hoodie kid, sweating hard over their team leader's HP bar. With insane mechanical skill, Lucius cancels the knockback, drifting his boots through the dirt until he fully stabilizes. Kneeling on the ground, he hears the opponent laughing, admitting he actually got caught off guard by the sword mechanics. The giant trolls him, swearing that without a magic combat buff, the kid's blade hits as soft as a toddler's punch. Ignoring the toxic chat, the hare looks down and pulls the energy stone right out of his inventory. The boy brings the glowing crystal close to his own chest, feeling an insanely nostalgic ping. A neon green aura starts rendering over his skin, confirming that his legacy combat tree is responding to the trigger. Blown away by the visual upgrade, the young guy reaches out, theory crafting what is about to drop if he equips this power. On the opposite side, the enemy leader pools all his purple energy, announcing it is finally time for the finisher. Hyper, focused on his own skill tree, the hare stares at the relic, perfectly remembering the legacy tech to absorb it. The kid closes his eyes, letting the clean buff inject straight into his magic network. The relic flashes with an insanely busted light right in the palm of the rookie's hand. A massive shockwave of green light erupts out of Lucius's model, wiping the entire forest clean with his newly unlocked power scaling. A massive shockwave of green light erupts out of Lucius's model, wiping the entire forest clean with his newly unlocked power scaling. The boy tilts his head up, feeling the buff code run through every single pixel of his avatar. That green glow pulses across the zone, proving the relic consumption was a flawless speed run. Slowly opening his eyes, he analyzes the nostalgic buff he had not equipped in ages. A heavy orange glow floods his vision, basically leaking his real account ID. Ripping his own gear, the hare smirks with pure hype, realizing he finally managed to jailbreak the skill. He feels the files of the old power tree booting up perfectly on his current hardware. From the other side of the arena, the enemy boss sweats bullets, physically feeling the sudden shift in the server's aggro. Taking a step forward, the Lord Boy realizes he had to force this unlock by burning the spiritual stone. Gripping the weapon hilt tight, he calculates that this physical buff is probably only going to last for exactly one hit. Jump, scared by the suffocating aura, the opponent gets completely stunned, locked. A monstrous red energy leaks off the kid, forcing the enemy to panic at that glitched pressure and listen to him declare that this whole thing is ending in exactly one hit. Dropping into a flawless combat stance, the boy dumps his entire mana bar into the metal while the ground literally crashes beneath him. The giant veteran freezes in place, shaking with terror at the incoming wipe. Glaring at the target with a heavy look, the boy states with maximum ice that fixing bugs with just one hit is his ultimate flex. Panicking at the power display, the rival boss turns his back and tries to sprint back to his magic defense zone. He screams internally, warning himself that he absolutely cannot let that ultimate hit him under any circumstances. But Lucius gives 0 frames for escape, drawing the blade in a brutally fast animation. The giant pushes his movement speed to the max, trying to dive into his unbreakable safe zone. Right then, the Lord Kid launches a straight red dash, ripping through the entire map's wind with destructive spite. The monstrous strike tags the guy's back perfectly, violently launching his ragdoll model across the sky. After the flawless combo, the hare lands smoothly, keeping his stance rock solid. But the stamina drain hits him instantly, and he collapses to his knees gasping for air, proving his limit really was just one attack, since the crystal's stolen mana is fully depleted. Checking his own debuffs, the kid processes the whole scene with insane chill. He realizes, completely amazed, that despite the 0 stamina penalty, the firewall blocking his old skill tree has officially been deleted. Gripping the blade, the boy calculates that the download is still stuck at 99% and he won't be able to spam this energy without an external battery item. Even so, a smile of pure, unedited hype pops onto the rookie's face. Propped up by his sword, he looks up totally locked in, knowing that right now he has the exact patch notes on how to keep leveling up. Suddenly, an out-of-breath voice line drops his username, breaking the silence of the wrecked woods. Lilia pushes forward, panting hard as she reaches her teammate, completely muted by the crazy clip she just watched. Still shook, the girl asks what kind of glitch cheat, code skill he just spammed. The girl scans the environment, mind blown by the total wipeout of the threat that was draining the server. The introverted No pulls up closer, asking if the squad leader is okay, catching a chill reply that his HP is totally fine. Right after, the sword boy walks out of the shadows, calling the hare out by his clan tag. Lucius and the hoodie kid shift their aggro to their squad mate walking toward them. With a super heavy vibe, Hector says that the way the mage just wielded that blade is standard for a player with years of logged playtime. Squinting at the new kid, the young prodigy demands to know who the carry was that taught him how to combo like that. The lobby tension spikes between the two boys under the moonlight, right in the middle of the dead silent map. The Lord Boy tanks his teammate's stare without dropping a single sweat over the toxic interrogation. Casually turning his back, he chooses to keep his dark lore completely private for now. The next day, the skybox updates to the sunny campus courtyards, where the squad is hyping up their rank climb on the global leaderboards. Rolling together down the halls, they all agree the raid was worth the grind, since everyone managed to bag those ultra-rare stat stones. Super proud, Lilia flashes a smug grin and warns that she is not losing to the hoodie rookie anymore, flexing her brand new 26th spot on the ladder. Hiding under his hood, Noah shyly mumbles that he will let the girl enjoy her WBU for now, since he is currently sitting in the 29th slot. Trailing behind, the Arclight Hare walks in total mute mode, holding down the 25th rank in the academy. Hector Power walks ahead, super salty that he could not extract his partner's hidden lore the night before. While the girl is memeing with the squad, the hare just leads the push down the halls, totally tuning out the voice chat. Being the highest ELO rookie, Lucius is holding the 19th spot on the board, and is busy crafting the win from the last mission. He replays the feedback of that flawless hit, calculating that his current mana pool just cannot sustain the ability on its own. With a cold smirk, the kid decides his most logical next quest is to farm a ridiculous amount of raw magic energy. The squad keeps walking until they hit a massive lobby area totally packed with random players. The kid's attention gets hijacked by a giant glowing billboard advertising the Empire's massive betting tournament. Standing AFK in front of the neon sign, the squad leader asks what the lore behind this event is. Leah stares at the promo banner, totally mind-blown that a main stage event like this is being hosted inside. Right then, a random blonde woman spawns right behind the boy and drops a hand on his shoulder, backing up the mage's reaction. Leaning in, the stranger asks with a flirty tone if they are curious, making the girl physically jump scare. Flashing a face full of troll intentions, the veteran student jokes that she is catching some romance vibes and drops a GG for the squad's sweaty gameplay in the last exam. The young lord tanks her stare without getting hit by the charm debuff while she thanks him for deleting those annoying NPCs, so she didn't have to. The girl takes a step back, spinning with hype, and quickly reads that the freshman is super interested in the billboard event. Pointing her finger at the rules panel, she breaks down that it is a massive tournament sponsored directly by the Empire, queuing up high-tier fighters from every server. Just off to the side, a random freshman eavesdrops and drops a nervous comment about the sketchy rumors surrounding the deathmatch. His duo nods, bringing up the gossip that the bracket is just a brutal circus for rich whales to dump money on, and that players literally get deleted. Spawning out of nowhere, the blonde girl slides up to the gossiping duo, confirming that those dark rumors are 100% canon. Popping a sneaky smirk, she drops a hint to the scared kids that there's a massive Easter egg in this whole setup. The student drops her voice to sound edgy, revealing that the arena's floor for this event has a super glitched code base. She explains that all the energy spammed by the players during the sweaty matches actually pools up in the arena floor, and gets passively absorbed by whoever survives the round. The girl details that, as the brackets progress, the dropped energy on the map scales to insane numbers, basically dropping a massive buff on the winner. Throwing her hands up with hype, she swears that the more rounds someone survives in the pit, the more their base mana stats get perma-buffed. Hearing this premium intel, the hare's eyes go wide, realizing this is the exact farming spot he has been hunting for. The student winks and adds that, since it is a third-party event outside the school system, it does not affect their GPA, making it highly recommended for players wanting to test their actual stats. Lilia instantly turns her back, dropping all interest, complaining that her family clan would never sign off on a sketchy gambling event, and pings the squad to leave. Ignoring his duo, Lucius stays parked, calculating the insane value of a magic map that just hands out free XP. A super confident smirk takes over the boy's face as he realizes that if he sweeps the whole bracket, he is going to secure a ridiculous bag of energy. Reluctant to join this crazy lobby, he turns around and pings the blonde girl, who was already walking away. The girl hits the brakes and looks back, pretty surprised by the noob's straight-up question. Ignoring his friend, Lucius asks flat out where the NPC is to drop off the registration forms. Lilia gets tilted and asks if his brain lagged out, reminding him the tournament grants 0 school points. The veteran girl floats away with a super chill vibe. She smiles and promises she will go out of her way to deliver the invite directly to the kid. Lilia and Noah are left totally confused by the stranger's cryptic playstyle. Right then, the mystery girl grabs the freshman's attention for one last crucial tooltip. Getting close to the boy, she drops the warning that the players ranked higher than him on the leaderboard are also queuing up for this hardcore event. The girl finally turns her back and throws a peace sign, dropping a gluff to the rookie for the tournament. With that confirmation, the Lord Boy flashes a locked-in stare, totally hyper, focused on his ultimate quest to farm a massive energy pool. Cut to immediately after, the Empire's massive gambling tournament boots up with the stadium completely packed with rich nobles. A weirdly dressed purple announcer takes over the mic to hype up the lobby. He explains the mechanics are super basic. Just dump your coins on your favorite fighter to cash out. The caster warns that the payout odds get nerfed the further the fighters push into the bracket. With maximum hype, he screams that whoever dumps their gold right at the start has the best RNG to pull the jackpot. Up in the VIP seats, the rich players gossip about a 12-year-old kid in the roster. They meme on him, thinking it is just a garbage gimmick that is not worth spending gold on. At the exact same time, Lucius is chilling AFK at the arena gate, tracking the wild hype outside. He scans the ridiculous amount of magic power rendering around the venue, proving this Empire-funded event is definitely high illo. A bunch of sweaty veteran fighters leak heavy auras in the lobby, proving this raid is not for casuals. Scouting the enemies, the hare notes the top 3 players from the academy haven't loaded into the zone yet. Grabbing the crowd's aggro, the caster announces the instant start of the event's opening match. The magic jumbotrons display the character models of the 2 players, matching Lucius up against a ridiculously buffed giant. The announcer makes sure to hype up the absolutely broken size difference between the 2 fighters to bait more bets. He introduces Soldier Garzas from the Northern Guard unit squaring up against the rookie kid repping the academy. Spectating from the VIP box, Hector tells Lilia and Noah that the enemy is part of one of the most toxic war guilds in the entire empire. A blonde noble glazes the young warrior's game sense, and the kid just nods while keeping a super distant vibe. The rest of the gamblers dump all their gold on the older warrior, locking it in as a 100% guarantee deluge. A literal storm of gold coins floods the screen as the caster announces the match is about to go live. In the background, the other fighters are laughing at the matchup, telling the merc to go easy on the unarmored noob. The announcer explains that the fighter's magic power will be buffered inside the light towers, and he will call the start the second they hit max capacity. The northern soldier flashes a toxic smirk and readies his heavy weapon for the brawl. Without breaking a single sweat at the danger, the young kid waits for his cue with unbreakable chill. The caster throws his arm up dramatically, asking if the duo of players is locked in. The second the magic towers overflow, the start alarm echoes through the whole map. Abusing the opening, the warrior rushes furiously, flaming the rookie in chat, completely ready to delete him in the first push. Up in the stands, the sword hare watches in awe, noticing the giant has some ridiculously glitched movement speed. The warrior brings his weapon down with max damage, screaming for the kid to get wiped from his screen in a cloud of dust. Lucius steps the lethal hit with 0 effort, muttering bored trash, talk about the enemy's weapon build. With a frame-perfect animation, the MC throws his arm out, aiming dead center at the enemy's completely open hitbox. The warrior's eyes bug out in pure panic when he realizes he just walked into a trap with no escape options. The rookie dumps a massive payload of pure magic point, blank into the opponent. The blue blast tags the giant flawlessly, forcing him to scream in agony from the critical damage. The knockback shreds the arena's wind, brutally yeeting the soldier's heavy character model backward. The kid pulls his arm back, keeping a hyper, focused and ruthless look after landing the perfect combo. 0 chance to parry, the soldier face plants into the dirt, completely disconnected from the server. The crowd of whales goes into complete shock, dropping the stadium into a creepy silence after their top pick got instantly one-tapped. Even the event caster is left completely muted, sweating bullets at this monstrous display of skill. Stuttering into the mic, the announcer finally breaks the quiet and declares the kid the undisputed winner of the match. The gamblers have an absolute meltdown, raging over losing their bags on a troll outcome in round 1. Catching his breath, the caster screams with hype, declaring the spawn of a literal prodigy who ended the whole game with exactly 1 hit. Lily exhales a massive sigh of relief, slumping over the desk, annoyed. Hector tells her to stop trashing their VIP booth. The entire lobby is questioning the kid's real username, while the winner gets bathed in the glow of the arena's magic tower. The hare clenches his fingers and leeches all that clean energy straight into his own system. Even with the stat boost, he mentally calculates that the volume still isn't enough to trigger his combat path. Round 2 boots up against a brand new opponent, but the Lord Boyan installs the rival with the exact same 0 effort strat. The caster totally loses his mind, screaming into the mic about another insane 1-tap victory. Terrified of losing more gold, the nobles swap their strategy and start dumping all their currency on the kid. A third challenger tries to full send it, but gets completely deleted by a shockwave right under the rain of gold coins. The announcer glazes the 3-peat win, locking in the 12-year-old kid as the absolute final boss of the tournament. The boy stands solo in the middle of the map, leaking a dark aura and officially earning the title of unkillable. Up in the stands, the blonde girl is girling hysterically for the boy, forcing his squadmates to tell her to mute her Mitch. The blonde aristocrat watches the wipeout quietly, showing a dangerous level of interest in the boy's raw talent. Sweeping even more matches, the hare sucks up the rest of the stage's dropped loot, but gets super tilted because he still needs more energy. Out of nowhere, the main arena gates get kicked wide open with a massive boom, pausing the whole tournament bracket. Sensing a completely broken spiritual energy flooding the lobby, the kid snaps his head up, hyper, focused on the new boss spawn. A massive, shadowy character model stomps aggressively toward the lit center of the arena. A colossal blast of purple lightning shakes the map's geometry, suffocating every single player with impossible pressure. The tournament caster starts sweating in pure terror, stuttering that nobody leaked this update to him. The guy realizes in sheer panic that absolute top, tier VIP, just forced his way into the lobby. Recognizing the insane stats of this presence, the blonde noble and his bodyguards instantly stand up, dropping a respect emote. Down in the pit, Lucius holds a serious face, waiting for the invader's nameplate to render. A heavy boot and premium tier armor step heavily onto the main stage floor. The young lord slightly narrows his eyes, instantly identifying that iconic energy signature. Consumed by a rage he literally cannot filter, the boy clenches his fist so hard he almost tears his cosmetic glove. The hare looks up to face the massive boss model taking over the highest balcony in the zone. The new spawn is none other than Lord Atlas himself, rocking red eyes and an aura of pure toxic oppression. Blinded by a deep hatred from his past playthrough, the boy triggers his magic aura and whispers the backstabber's name. The arrogant clan leader looks down at the rookie player, flexing a ridiculous stat gap between the two of them. A heavy atmosphere corrupts the server as the boy's death stare collides head-on with his old master's absolute disrespect.